Is a pretty big day for a couple different reasons. Obviously, we have the DeShaun Watson news. We should be seeing Nick Chubb slide up draft boards, Kareem Hunt slide up draft boards, of course, Amari Cooper, of course, DeShaun Watson, of course, David Njoku. Those are going to be players that we need to look for in this fantasy football draft we're about to hop into. And we also have big news that over there on Underdog Fantasy, they just launched the Puppy 3. Now, if you don't know about Underdog Fantasy and these puppy drafts or Best Ball Mania, this is going to be a 12-team draft where a small percentage of every single league pot is set aside for a massive fantasy football tournament in weeks 15, 16, and 17 at the very end of the season. We got good news, bad news. This puppy draft is freaking massive. It's a $5 buy-in, $1 million in prizes, $200,000 for first, $100,000 for second, literally off a $5 buy-in. But bad news is, looks like this sucker's going to fill quickly. This literally launched about 8 hours ago. And in the span of 8 hours, it almost has 20,000 people entered. So we need to go through. We need to enter quickly. We need to be able to fire up a couple of these drafts. Of course, you know, we're going to do this on the live stream every single night until this contest is filled. But if you want to join, you know how to do it. Go over to Underdog Fantasy and join that public lobby. So now let's see where we are going to be drafting, who we're going to be going up against. We are going to be drafting at the 110, and we have a couple members of the flock out here. We have OBS Destroyers. We have Felony as well. We got Swizz World. I believe that's the first time we've seen Swizz World out here for quite some time. But thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate all of y'all. If you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like on this live stream, subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you want to draft with us, if you want to go get in some drafts on Underdog Fantasy, if you want to live a little, have some fun, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy with the link in the description or the link in the live chat or the link in the comment section. You can find it anywhere. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, make sure you use promo code FLOCK, because if you use promo code FLOCK, you are going to get a 100% deposit match. So it's essentially free for you to try out these drafts. You're getting paid to draft fantasy football teams, and you're going to get my 2022 rankings. And to go along with this, you're going to get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with literally just a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy. So please make sure you take advantage of that. Just pulled up the live chat, and dear God, we have a ton of people out here. Thank you guys. You know, I appreciate you. I'm going live early tonight because it's a big day. The puppy drafts are now available. I've already done about 10 of these this morning. So I'm going to probably live stream for a while tonight. I don't want to say, oh, if we get 250 likes on the live stream, we'll go ahead, we'll fire up another draft. Doesn't matter how many likes we get on this first draft. We are definitely going to get a second one going, possibly a third, possibly a fourth. Last night on the live stream, we had 4 drafts in a single night. But here we have Christian McCaffrey falling down to pick 4. So maybe this is going to be a little bit of a wide receiver heavy draft room. If you're seeing Jefferson at 2, if you're seeing Kupp at 3, and now we get Stephon Diggs at 6. So this is going to make a difference in our draft strategy. If we're looking at maybe a tiebreaker later on, if we're sitting there at pick 15 and it's between, say, a CD Lamb and then a DeAndre Swift, we definitely need to be going with the wide receiver based on how this draft room has started off. Dalvin Cook goes at 8. So you know what? We're getting the big dog. We are getting King Henry at pick 10. Derrick Henry is a running back that I think is going to be overvalued in casual formats. If he ends up going top 5, I don't think Derrick Henry should be in that range. But can I pass on Derrick Henry at pick 10? No, there's no way in hell I can. Zach says, bruh, Diggs just went at the 101 in the puppy draft that I am. I wish I was in that draft. If Diggs is going at the 101 in that draft, I wish that's where we were. But we have Joe Mixon going at 11. You know that's going to pain me. I love Joe Mixon. I even have Joe Mixon ranked ahead of Derrick Henry in full PPR formats this upcoming season. Now, obviously, you see me take Derrick Henry before him, but that's because we're looking at Derrick Henry's ADP, understanding that we can get Mixon and so many of these other drafts in the second. So you know what I'm going to do? In a vacuum, I am going to prefer Aaron Jones, but if we look at how the ADPs line up and we try to create unique combinations of these players, I think that instead we are going to be able to come away with a more unique combination in that I do not expect a ton of teams in this overall tournament to be able to start with Derrick Henry at 10 and DeAndre Swift at 15, where there are going to be a lot of drafters that are able to get Derrick Henry at 8 and have Aaron Jones make it back to him in 17. So I do still prefer Aaron Jones in a vacuum over DeAndre Swift, given the offenses they are playing in my opinion, very similar roles between the two running backs. but they're in the same tier. So let's go ahead. Let's take DeAndre Swift at 15. We have Deebo Samuel post-extension now going before Mike Evans. This is the first time I've seen Deebo Samuel go before Mike Evans in a long time. I'm not going to be too surprised if this is, I don't want to say the new norm, but if this regularly happens after the Julio Jones signing, as well, of course, after the Deebo Samuel extension. I mean, I had a couple people reach out to us over there on Locals saying, oh, Mason, did you see that Deebo Samuel has rushing incentives in this contract? Does this mean that we should expect the rushing usage to be the same? I don't want to read that far into it. I just want to look at that guaranteed money and say, you don't give a player that much guaranteed money. He had a much better contract than DK Metcalf, a much better contract than even AJ Brown. You don't give a man that much money unless you plan to continue to use him as the 49ers did last season. PTB says, what's the difference between puppy and a best ball draft? A puppy is a best ball draft. This is going to be a best ball draft. There's no way I could go ahead and fire up 100 of these drafts real quick if it was not going to be a league where we did not have to submit the starting lineup during the season. So Michael Pittman Jr. goes off the board at pick 20. Yeah, guys, this is the reason I'm not going to have a lot of Michael Pittman Jr. this season. This is the reason that I think the hype has gotten out of control for a wide receiver that was not a top 24 wide receiver on a per-game basis last year. I understand wanting to be excited about the fact that he had a 25% team target share. I get it. I'm with you. The target share was great in year 2. Also, if you look at his yards per route run compared to the other receivers in that offense, he was pretty good. But I think the slight upgrade you're getting at quarterback from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan, and yes, I'm saying a slight upgrade. Prime Matt Ryan is leagues and leagues and leagues, tiers ahead of Carson Wentz. But 37, 38-year-old Matt Ryan, I'm unsure if we can say the same thing. I think the upgrading quarterback's going to be, I don't want to say outweighed, but maybe it's going to be negated by the added target competition that you may have with a healthy Paris Campbell and also Alec Pierce coming in. D-Lane says, have you started with Derrick Henry and DeAndre Swift before? I don't know if I've seen that combination from you yet. No, that's why we decided to go DeAndre Swift in the second over Aaron Jones, because I do think it's a unique combination. Very rarely are you getting Derrick Henry following you at pick 10. Like personally, I'm taking Stephon Diggs over Derrick Henry in this league where you have to start 3 wide receivers. So I'm not starting with Derrick Henry that often in general, unless he falls this far. Even if Derrick Henry would have fallen to 9, we would have taken Derrick Henry at pick 9. Okay, T. Higgins just goes off the board at pick 31. Riz, I believe, is also a part of the flock. They have an interesting start with Travis Kelce, Mike Evans, and T. Higgins. I doubt many teams are going to be able to pull off that trio, specifically the combination of Travis Kelce and T. Higgins, who almost exclusively go either at the 1-2 turn or the 2-3 turn. Now, OBS Destroyers on the clock, they started with 2 running backs. I'd imagine they go DJ Moore, give us James Conner, and maybe this leads us down the path to go with a hyper-fragile build this draft. Yeah, they go DJ Moore. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take a James Conner. I don't love it. I think it is going to be a unique roster combination. I think given the best ball format, we are going to be able to load up on a ton of wide receivers later on, and we can possibly capture some spike weeks as the season progresses. I really don't like the idea of taking any other player over James Conner here, in that if you're looking at a Travis Etienne, I think Travis Etienne has to fall in ADP a little bit further down compared to where James Conner is going, given the fact that you have James Robinson avoiding the PUP. I think James Robinson will threaten just a little bit the red zone role that we are so excited about Travis Etienne potentially having. And those wide receivers, I don't think can be in the same tier. So let's see what happens. And you know what? Now we're going to get Travis Etienne starting with 4 running backs in a row. Guys, I understand. If you were talking about a median projection, this does not put us in a good spot. If you were talking about a median projection, you have to be very worried about the start of Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, James Conner, and Travis Etienne. But if we're looking for that top 1 percentile outcome, if you go back 2 years ago and look at the winner of Best Ball Mania 1, this is what they did. They started off their draft with 4 running backs in a row and then just hammered in wide receivers after that. You go 4 running backs, don't have to roster anybody else. Yes, if one of these RBs goes down for the year, we're done. We lose. We have no shot. But at the same time, if we're talking top 1 percentile outcomes, which we are chasing in this contest, I think a hyper-fragile build isn't going to be the worst thing in the world when we get all these players at, in my opinion, a value. Scissor says, I'm in that same puppy where Diggs went at the 101. LOL. At pick 8, I also started Derrick Henry, then DeAndre Swift. Oh, my man. How are y'all getting in these drafts where Stephon Diggs is going at the 101? Y'all know I love Stephon Diggs, but that is very interesting. Derek says, you're early tonight. I like it. Yes, sir. I figured with puppy opening up and at the same time with the DeShaun Watson news, I was probably wanting to stream for a very long time tonight. I'm going to try to get another 4-draft live stream like we had last night, but last night I just ran out of steam. I was so tired by the time we got to the end of it. So I figured if we wanted to do another 4-drafts live stream, we have to go ahead, start a little bit early. Riley says, Massachusetts legalized sports betting. Let's go Underdog. Underdog's not classified as sports betting. Underdog's a little bit more in line with a DFS. So like here in Texas, we don't have sports betting. I can't download a sports book, but I can play on Underdog Fantasy. Still, there are going to be some states, because Underdog is regulated, that crack down on everything. I'm sure y'all know that. Sports betting, DFS, it's all really on a state-by-state basis. Was Massachusetts previously not allowing Underdog Fantasy? Okay, thank God we have J.K. Dobbins going to pick 50. We need some of these running backs off the board. It's not going to be good for us if all of a sudden we're looking at best players available here at pick 58 being David Montgomery. I mean, if David Montgomery is the best player available at 58, we messed up. Thank God he's off the board. Oh, that would have been tough. Now, let's see what we can do. Riley says Underdog isn't in Massachusetts currently. Okay, so I'm assuming maybe it's coming to Massachusetts soon. I will give you an update if I get any news from Underdog on that front. I mean, I think that would be very exciting. Now, what sucks is we have to draft next to OBS Destroyers. Okay, we are going to get at least one of Brandon Cooks or George Kittle, so I think we can be very excited about that value at pick 58. And then on the way back around in the 6th round, we could even look at bringing in a Chris Godwin, or we could go with an elite level quarterback. We could get a Kyler Murray, and we could stack up Kyler Murray with James Conner. Kyler test positive for COVID. I think from a fantasy football standpoint, we don't need to be worried about that whatsoever. Maybe I'm being stupid, but my opinion, I think you just draft Kyler Murray exactly where he was going beforehand. So our wide receiver 1 here in Brandon Cooks, a player that should give us a high floor on a week-to-week basis. I mean, with Brandon Cooks, you know you are going to be getting targets. Now, the issue is going to be the passing efficiency with Davis Mills. I still want to stand by the fact that I think Davis Mills is a pretty bad NFL quarterback. I think if I had to rank him, he would probably be a bottom 5 starter in the NFL this upcoming season. I know everybody's going to go down there to the comment section and go, oh, Mason, don't you know Davis Mills was the 2nd best rookie quarterback last year? Yeah, that was true, but it was just because the rookie quarterbacks last year were freaking atrocious. They were horrendous. Let's not hype up Davis Mills just because Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence were laughably bad. Okay. Rashad Bateman, I know he had a positive blurb coming out earlier. Yet Rashad Bateman is making a good impression at training camp. I'm still not in love with Rashad Bateman at his price point when he's going at pick 54, and sometimes like David Montgomery's going after Rashad Bateman. I'm not excited to take Bateman in that light, but I can be fair. I can say he was an elite level prospect coming out of college. At the same time, he did deal with a groin injury during training camp last year. But let's go ahead. Let's take Darnell Mooney. We're going to go back-to-back wide receivers in very bad NFL offenses that should just be straight-up target hogs. I mean, here in Chicago, very similar to Houston. I don't think you are going to have any type of passing efficiency whatsoever with Justin Fields. And oh my gosh, we talked about this every single night on the live stream. And I hate to continue to just bring up the same topics over and over and over again. But y'all know I was the leader of the Trey Lance fan club last year from a Dynasty fantasy football perspective. Trust me, I was too high on him. I was telling people to draft Trey Lance at the 101 in Dynasty rookie drafts. I was telling people to take Trey Lance over Kyle Pitts in tight end premium formats in their Superflex leagues. I was laughing at anybody who decided to go ahead and to take Justin Fields over Trey Lance. But looks like I am no longer going to be the leader of the Trey Lance fan club when he's going within 10 picks of Patrick Mahomes, when he's going back-to-back with Jalen Hurts, when he's going 4 picks behind Kyler. I've seen this consistently. In our $1,000 draft, or maybe it was our $500 draft, in one of those drafts, I think it was our $1,000 one, you had Trey Lance before Joe Burrow in that one as well. It's a consistent trend. The Trey Lance hype has possibly gone out of control. Just possibly. Joe says, I loved me some Darnell Mooney last season, decided to pick him up. I personally wasn't a massive fan of Darnell Mooney last year. Now, mainly it was because I was idiotic and I was the idiot drafting Allen Robinson in the 3rd round. I had Allen Robinson last year ranked before Cooper Kupp. Now, also, everybody else did. That was his ADP, but still, I can admit how stupid I was. And with that, I looked at Allen Robinson historically as an elite level wide receiver coming close to a 28% team target share. And I was like, okay, these are highly correlated statistics on a year-to-year basis. We can say with almost certainty that Allen Robinson is a very, very talented NFL wide receiver, and he should dominate targets in a low volume passing attack. And Darnell Mooney was significantly better across the board. Darnell Mooney had a higher target share. Darnell Mooney had a higher yards per route run metric. Darnell Mooney had more air yards per game, and that was as a second-year player. Yeah, so we can blame a lot of the struggles for Allen Robinson on the quarterback play as well as the coaching staff with combination of Justin Fields and Matt Nagy. But Darnell Mooney had the same exact situation, and Darnell Mooney did fine. Okay. Now, hopefully, for the sake of this team, for the sake of this draft, we have Miles Sanders and Tony Pollard go off the board. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 78. Good for us. Good for us. Hopefully we get 2 more of these running backs off, or we are going to be looking real dumb with this hyper-fragile strategy. And in terms of quarterbacks that we could be drafting at pick 82, I think it would be hard for us to try to sell this team to a Tom Brady, to a Dak Prescott. Maybe if Russell Wilson were to fall that far, we go ahead, we just take the value with Russell Wilson. I don't really like Dalton Schultz at his ADP, but if we're going to get him 12 picks behind exactly a round later, and then we could possibly, say, pull Dak Prescott on the way back around, maybe that's something we look to do. Let's see what OBS Destroyers does right before us. He has Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones at running back. He has DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson at receiver. He got lucky. He had George Kittle making it to him at pick 57. So you know what? I think that's what we're going to do. I think we're going to grab Dalton Schultz. I'm not a massive fan of his ADP, but like I said, he falls 12 picks past it. He falls an entire round past his ADP. We can't take a running back here. I simply can't draft Miles Sanders or Tony Pollard. Russell Wilson goes off the board at 83. So we are probably going to come around and take Dak Prescott at 87 if he's there for us, because we're getting Dalton Schultz. I think it's safe to say that's a valuable stack that we can have given the targets available in Dallas and how this team is going to push the pace of play and how they're going to crush. Never mind. Let's pivot. Everyone, pivot. Let's think this through. The right call from a roster construction standpoint is probably to just go ahead and take Chris Olave. But personally, maybe I'm stupid to not like that idea. And in a straight up vacuum, I will admit Miles Sanders is the best player available, not even close. But maybe we come away with the turn here, double tapping the tight end position, only having to roster 2 tight ends, saving an extra roster spot for wide receiver. I would not do this, of course, if it was not a best ball format. I mean, you would go ahead, you would take Dalton Schultz, and then you wouldn't look at a tight end for quite a while. If you even draft another tight end, depending on how shallow your draft and how shallow your overall roster is. But with this team in particular, I think it does make sense to just go ahead, take Hawkinson, make sure that we're not going to have to draft a second one of these guys, because what wide receiver could we even take? Am I going to get that excited about drafting Russell Gage? Am I going to really draft Chris Olave here? I mean, maybe if Michael Thomas wasn't at practice, I'd be fine taking Chris Olave here, but y'all know I am a Michael Thomas truther this upcoming season, at least for where his price was. Now he is sneaking up fantasy football drafts. So let's go Hawkinson at 87. I really like the player. We also have DeAndre Swift, so maybe this makes Jared Goff a clear draft target later on, but it is what it is. Caden says, hey, Mason, I got 2 keepers in my 2 quarterback superflex format out of Lamar, Trey Lance, DeShaun Watson, and Jalen Hurts. Pick 2. Okay, so I think you have to go ahead. You have to keep Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson in 2019 was the highest scoring quarterback in fantasy football history in 4-point passing touchdown leagues. Lamar Jackson has the ceiling to straight up break fantasy football. And beyond that, if it was going to be a dynasty fantasy football format where we really needed to look forward to future seasons, there I would go ahead and I would take Deshaun Watson. With Deshaun Watson, he's at a floor of the quarterback 5 throughout his entire NFL career on a points per game basis. And he's obviously at the ceiling as the quarterback 1. You can go all the way back to his rookie season to see him break fantasy football halfway through the year. However, in a 2-player keeper league, you need to treat it like redraft. In a 2-player keeper league, it is 100% just going to be a redraft format. And in a redraft format like that, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to prefer someone that's going to play the entire season. I would prefer Jalen Hurts. But speaking of Mr. DeShaun Watson, he's officially off the board. You have DeShaun Watson off the board at pick 97. This is to a team that decided to take Amari Cooper at 49. So reaching on Amari Cooper a little bit here compared to where Amari Cooper had been going in drafts. Amari Cooper had been a selection in the middle of the 6th round. And here reaching on DeShaun Watson. But hell, you're getting 11 games to potentially a top 5 quarterback. Of course, that's extremely valuable. And then let's go through and let's look at some of the other Cleveland Browns players and where they went, because I did notice that Kareem Hunt went a little bit earlier than usual in this draft. Kareem Hunt here goes to pick 88. This was before Chase Edmonds, Miles Sanders, Rashad Penny, all of whom were regularly going before Kareem Hunt, before the DeShaun Watson news, of course. And then outside of that, Nick Chubb goes in his usual spot at the 2-3 turn. So yeah, that team at the 1 pick has the double stack with DeShaun Watson, Amari Cooper, and Nick Chubb. But thank God for us, we have a couple tight ends off the board. Get these tight ends good and gone. And OBS Destroyers go Sky Moore. So we're going to take Russell Gage. Now with Russell Gage, of course, you're a whole lot less excited about Gage at pick 106, considering the Julio Jones signing. Julio Jones, in my opinion, has the largest impact for Russell Gage. I think most people would agree with that. But Russell Gage was a 6th round selection before that. Like Julio Jones coming over to Tampa, I think that is going to be baked in the price for Gage at 106. Now, if I knew we would have had Russell Gage making it back to us at 106, maybe we would have hoped that we had Tom Brady in the 8th round. I don't even think we had we didn't even have the option to go Brady. Brady went to pick 86. But it is what it is. Hopefully these teams right before us, they decide to go with a running back. You have Damian Harris falling a total of 15 picks past his ADP. This team on the clock only has 1 running back. The 1 running back is Tony Pollard. They go James Cook over Damian Harris. Of course, selfishly, we're wanting Harris off the board. We're wanting Kenneth Walker off the board. We're going to go ahead. We have to take a receiver here. We can't take a tight end. No tight ends in this range are even appealing to begin with. Quarterbacks, I'm still going to be trying to get, say, a Justin Fields later on. We're going to be trying to get a Jared Goff, and possibly, just possibly, we throw on Trevor Lawrence into that mix. I don't know. We'll be able to figure out the quarterback position later. Okay, so we have Cordell Patterson off. You have Damian Harris, 17 picks past his ADP here. He finally goes. Thank God we get Chase Claypool. Okay. This team's coming together in a best ball environment where we don't have to predict which one of these wide receivers is going to go off any given week. I do think we've been able to piece together potentially top 5 tight end production every single week with the combination of Dalton Schultz and TJ Hawkinson. Obviously, we're going to have elite level running back play if we have Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, James Conner, and Travis Etienne all in the same roster. And then looking at Brandon Cooks, Darnell Mooney, Russell Gage, and Chase Claypool, it's not like we can jump up and down and go wild with those wide receivers. Of course, I can't pretend like this is a fantastic receiver core, but we just need it to be adequate. We just need to get by with it. That's all we're hoping for. Okay. Paul says, if Julio Jones is 70% of his prime, would you say he is the wide receiver 2 in Tampa? No. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are damn good wide receivers, my man. I mean, 70% Julio Jones is 100% better than Russell Gage, but 70% Julio's, in my opinion, not better than prime Evans or prime Chris Godwin. Like, let's not forget, Chris Godwin back in 2019 was the wide receiver 2 in fantasy football overall. The only wide receiver to finish ahead of Chris Godwin in 2019 was Michael Thomas. And Michael Thomas broke the NFL record for receptions that season. Like, Chris Godwin is an elite level wide receiver. He's done it with Jameis and he's done it with Brady. Noah says, what's up, Mason? Pretty sure I was in a draft with you earlier off the live stream. I went wide receiver heavy at pick 8, but ended up kind of getting screwed by the team auto-drafting running backs. Okay, yeah, you were definitely in a draft with me earlier this morning if that team was auto-drafting running backs. I was at a point where we were looking at, I can't remember who the wide receiver was. It was like Christian Watson versus Alexander Madison or something. And I had noticed that another team in the league had been auto-drafting running backs. They had like 7 running backs in the first 10 rounds. Like, okay, yeah, we probably always have to break the tie in favor of RBs. I think we did the same thing earlier in that draft with Cordell Patterson. I think we took Cordell Patterson over Tyler Boyd. That was the tie break that we had just because we noticed that one team was auto drafting RB and that they were probably slide up draft boards. But Kirk Cousins goes pick 120. You have Derek Carr 117. So I believe Aaron Rodgers is falling down this draft board. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers sitting at the very top, ADP of 110. We're currently on pick 123. A lot of these teams already have 2 elite level quarterbacks. I wouldn't be too surprised if you have Aaron Rodgers continuing to fall. What's really good for us is if you look at what's going to be available to us on the way back around, not too many running backs at the top of ADP. Do we want running backs at the top? No, of course. We do not want any running back even close to there. It's going to benefit us if we get a Rachaad White off the board. Cole Kmet as well, Pat Freiermuth, even though I do love the value where Freiermuth and Mike Gesicki have been going in these drafts over the past few days. But let's see where Ryan decides to take this. Is he on auto draft or is he queuing up? That may have been an auto pick. He goes Rodgers. It looks like maybe he auto drafted Derek Carr as well. I mean, he has Alan Lazard on this team. If you have Lazard, you probably want to take Rodgers. But it looks like he auto drafted Derek Carr. Very interesting. Tua Tagovailoa goes to foul, and he has his first quarterback off the board, 126. Let's think through this. The teams between us are good drafters. They know what they're doing, and they already have 2 elite level quarterbacks. You have Uncle Benji taking Russell Wilson and Tom Brady. The Green Lab taking Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott. So if we were to go with Justin Fields, if we wanted Justin Fields at pick 130, we actually should not take him here. And instead, we almost have him guaranteed to us at 135. Bloom goes, OBS Destroyers on the clock. They have a very balanced team overall. I mean, they could easily just take Rachaad White, take the value this far on 11 picks, passes ADP. They have Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Kareem Hunt at running back. They go Rachaad White. Yeah, so I almost did it. Of course, I want Justin Fields. Justin Fields makes the most sense for this roster. However, we need to understand the draft dynamics. Look at these teams on the turn. When you have Russell Wilson and Tom Brady and you're a good drafter, you know you can't take Justin Fields. Same thing if you have Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott. If you know what you're doing, you can't take Justin Fields. So I think we're good to go. Take Christian Watson. In my opinion, he does have access to a ceiling that these other wide receivers in this range don't, such as Jacoby Myers, Michael Gallup, Jarvis Landry. That way we can get the wide receiver we want as well as the quarterback we want. You could make the argument that we should have gone ahead. We should have taken Justin Fields at 130 to stack up with Darnell Mooney and then taken Trevor Lawrence at 135 to stack up with Travis Etienne. It's a fair argument to be made. Is this team on auto? Okay, thank God. No, they queued it up. I thought they were about to auto draft Justin Fields. Oh, that would have been brutal. Mr. Steph says, James Washington broke his foot at practice. Do you think Lamb or Schultz will be moving slightly up? Honestly, neither. I think if anybody's going to move up based on that, it's going to be Jalen Tolbert. Because the issue with drafting Jalen Tolbert is you would have to be worried about potentially when Michael Gallup comes back in. The 3 wide receiver set there in Dallas is going to be CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and James Washington. But even if Michael Gallup, say, comes back in week 3, week 4, James Washington has a broken foot. James Washington has no reps whatsoever. With Dak Prescott, we can assume that you will have Jalen Tolbert still a part of 3 wide receiver sets. So the James Washington injury, in my opinion, maybe helps Michael Gallup. I really do think it's going to end up helping Jalen Tolbert, however. But let me know what y'all think of this draft so far. With our Justin Fields selection to pair up with Darnell Mooney, I'm actually very excited with how this team's shaping up. I think that we should be able to continue to slam in wide receivers through the middle rounds. We're going to have enough roster spots, given the fact that we only have to draft 2 tight ends, where we are able to get a 3rd quarterback. But a very interesting draft so far. Wide receiver, Brandon Cooks, Darnell Mooney, Russell Gage, Chase Claypool, and Christian Watson. So yes, if it's a traditional league where you have to submit your starting lineup each and every week, very hard to pick between those guys. Very hard to pick which one of those players is actually going to produce. But in this kind of league, I think we'll make it work. Brian says, went to Cowboys training camp today. CD and Dak work connecting consistently. Oh, my man. I wish I would have gone and watched the Bucs training camp last year. That's something that I definitely regret. I didn't move to Tampa until late July, early August. So, of course, we were firing up the live streams, and I was already pumping out content 24/7. So it was really hard for me to fit my schedule, but I still should have found a way around it. I should have found a way to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers training camp last year. Obviously, in Austin, we have no NFL team that I can go watch. We can watch UT play in spring, but outside of that, nothing. Riz coming out says, what do you think of my team, Mason? Be happy to go through and look at this. drafting at the 107, I believe. Yeah, 107. Yeah, we talked about this through the first 3 rounds. I think in a vacuum, taking Kelce at 7's probably going to be pretty rich. I've personally stopped taking Kelce at 7, at 8, at 9. I've stopped reaching on Kelce just because the tight end value that you can find making it back to you in a lot of these drafts. You can potentially get late 3rd round Kyle Pitts. You can even get a George Kittle making it back to you in the 5th. But regardless, if we look at this, you get Mahomes and Kelce stacked up. You have to be very excited about that. Mike Evans at pick 18. I think that is going to be marginal, but still a good selection. T. Higgins at 31, possibly one of the best values in the draft. And I think if we're talking about unique combinations across this entire tournament, you're probably not going to have many teams that have the combination of Kelce and Higgins based on the board dynamic of Higgins having an ADP of 24 and Kelce having an ADP of 12. There's not going to be much overlap between those players. Ezekiel Elliott at 42, marginal. I maybe prefer Breece Hall, but I think that's going to be a personal preference. Ahmad St. Brown, 66, great value. Christian Kirk, 79, reaching on him a little bit, but I mean, if you're just looking in a vacuum, you're in a dead zone at this point. Once Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes off the board at 78, I think it is very hard to determine that. Miles Sanders, 90, great value. Lockett, 103, great value. Kenneth Walker, 114, great. My man, you have the best team in the draft. Better than our draft, no question. Ed coming out, thank you, my man, says, who at pick 40 when you have Najee Harris, Mike Evans, and James Conner? Ed, please don't feel the need to donate to answer this next question, but how am I supposed to know who's available in your league at pick 40? You got to go through. You got to let me know who's available. You got to let me know who I'm choosing from. Now, easy pick. We have to go ahead. We have to take a wide receiver. Van Jefferson dealing with an injury. KJ Osborne, I'm not too excited about his ADP at 146, but if we're going to get him at 154 on a team where we desperately need some random wide receiver spike weeks, I think it's going to be fine. If we're looking at Jameis Winston as a value making it back to us in the 14th round, I like the price point of Winston. We don't have any New Orleans Saints on this roster. We can't get any New Orleans Saints on this roster. So I think that we're probably going to go ahead and pass on Winston, even if he's available to us at pick 159, in favor of possibly going with Jared Goff at the end of the draft. And I don't even know who else we could be looking at. Maybe we take Nico Collins, 159, pair up the combination of Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins, and then grab Davis Mills in the last round as well. Have Justin Fields, Davis Mills, and Jared Goff at quarterback. Some of the grossest combos you'll ever hear. Randy says, I've been waiting a year for this. Randy, thank you for coming out, hanging out with us in the stream. I appreciate you. Hope that you get in the next draft with us. We have Aaron in the chat, also says, new follower here, hoping to get in the next draft. Thank you. Of course, if you want to get in our next draft, go to the link in the description. Make sure you are signed up and have an account with Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. You'll get our 2022 draft guide. You'll get our 2022 rankings. You'll get a 100% deposit match at the same time. So make sure you take advantage of that. Link in the description, promo code FLOCK. We do these live streams every single night. I'm going to try to get 4 drafts going tonight. So, of course, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on the live stream. Usually we say if we get 250 likes on the stream, we'll fire up another second draft. Guys, not going to lie to you, I'm firing up a second draft no matter what. But still, it would warm my heart if you decided to go down there, if you decided to share some love. Drop a like in the stream. Derek says, Melvin Gordon might not make the team. Okay. Saying that came from a beat reporter, Football Guys, who covers the Broncos. Let me go look this up, guys. Let me run over and look up something crucial to this report. We are on ESPN right now, the Denver Broncos depth chart. You have Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, and if you can guess, I knew who the third running back was on the team. I didn't know who the fourth. Can you guess who the third and fourth running backs on the Denver Broncos are? Please, spam the chat with your answer. Let me know who you think the third and fourth running backs on the Denver Broncos are. And this is why, in my opinion, Melvin Gordon is pretty safe to make the team. Like, let me go ahead and pull up his contract. I know Melvin Gordon did not get as large of a contract as I expected, only $2.5 million, and all of it's guaranteed. Yeah, Melvin Gordon's contract's 100% guaranteed. The depth chart, let's see if anybody got this right, A lot of people knew that Mike Boone was the third running back on the team. I knew that as well. I didn't know who the fourth guy was. The fourth guy is Demaria Crockett. That was a running back that used to be on the Houston Texans, a super deep flyer for Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues about 2 or 3 years ago. However, if you're a running back where your backup's Mike Boone, you had a large role in your offense last year, and you have a fully guaranteed contract, I think the Broncos could save $250,000 from moving off from him. It's an NFL team. $250,000 is nothing. Melvin Gordon's making the team, in my opinion. Master Enigma says, a former Debbie Darling, Crockett. Yes, sir. Someone goes on day 3. Dynasty Fantasy Football had a field day with him, of course. Now let's move this down. In terms of players that we can be looking at the quarterback position, nobody too exciting. Wide receiver, Corey Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Wan'Dale Robinson, Sammy Watkins. We still need receivers, of course. We're going to draft 2 more receivers and 2 more quarterbacks. Nicholas says, Benny Snell, a must handcuff for Najee Harris, ? In my opinion, no. Because we have to ask ourselves, what's the realistic ceiling for Benny Snell? How does he get there and how does he become a league-winning player, even in the case where you may have an injury to Najee Harris? He's going to be running behind a bottom 5 offensive line. Like, let's assume Benny Snell starting. Benny Snell will be running behind a bottom 5 offensive line. And Benny Snell is not a passing down running back. Benny Snell is not going to get targeted out of the backfield. So if you're in a bad offense, behind a bad offensive line, and you're not drawing targets, your high-value touches aren't going to be there. What's the red zone role supposed to be like in that offense this upcoming season? No, I don't care about Benny Snell. I don't see the path to any realistic ceiling. So we're going to take Corey Davis at 178. I feel like we get really lucky that Corey Davis falls because now this is going to allow us to take Zach Wilson as our quarterback 2 at 183. I still stand by the fact that I think Zach Wilson is a bad NFL quarterback. I think if you look at his adjusted yards per attempt number from his rookie season and compare that historically to a lot of other guys, he's a lot more likely to be Sam Darnold than he is Josh Allen. He's a lot more likely to be Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Dwayne Haskins, these guys that failed, these guys that get eventually cycled out of the league, than the one example of someone being very bad his rookie season and then all of a sudden coming out to be an elite level player. But we don't need to spend too much time on that. Let me know, do y'all want me to finish out this draft? I can tell you my plan. My plan is to take Jared Goff at 202. If we don't have Jared Goff, we're just going to pivot, take a different quarterback. And we're going to take another wide receiver at the very end that maybe is just the most appealing guy possible. So let me know if y'all want us to finish this draft or just fire up the second one. Even though I will say, guys, usually I say if we get 250 likes in the live stream, we'll fire up a second draft. And usually the live stream has about like 350 likes by the time we get done with the first one. We're set at 220. So if you're annoyed with me for always saying, oh, if we get this many likes, we'll fire up another draft, this is why. Because when I don't say that, when I say we're going to do another draft no matter what, then nobody likes the stream. Okay. So it looks like a lot of people are telling us to just fire up the second one. Okay, we will fire up that second one. And honestly, I don't think we even need to hide the screen or anything because all I'm going to do is I'm going to close this. Let's go over to the draft room, fire up a puppy 3. And let's see if we have, and it's automatically filled. It's filled just like that. We joined a room that I think only had about 2 or 3 spots left. So it's going to be good for us. So I don't have to draft with too many of you sickos. I actually get to, you know what's so funny? Underdog has something in the algorithm here for us, Derek. We are drafting next to Derek at pick 10. Every time Derek joins the draft with us, we are drafting right next to each other. It's happened literally every single day for like the past 4 days. That is hilarious. Hilarious. But nonetheless, we're going to make it work from pick 9. We just got Derrick Henry at pick 10. Maybe this is a similar start. Maybe we're coming away with Derrick Henry at pick 9. Going to hit it with the Derrick Henry and DeAndre Swift 1-2 turn. But we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. But Derek says, right next to you as usual. Yes, sir. We already went through that. But I am excited to crush you. I'm excited to snipe you. And I'm excited to win in this draft. And if you missed this draft, guys, I don't know what to say. We're doing this every single night. If you want to draft with us, all you got to do, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK, get our draft guide, get our rankings, get a 100% deposit match link in the description. We've already talked about this. And I'm sorry if you missed the draft, but this is why I am drafting every single night on the live stream. And now that it's August, I'm going to try to get 4 or 5 drafts going for y'all every single day. So buckle up. You are going to have so many opportunities to join these drafts with us. Don't you worry. Scissors says, bro, I joined a puppy and literally it filled from 1 to 12 instantly from your viewers. Okay, so, hey, that's probably good news. If you weren't able to get into our draft, at least you get to draft with Scissors, okay? I think people are probably more excited to draft with Scissors than us. So, no matter what you're doing, you are going to have fun in your draft. Now, Eckler goes at 4. Okay. Pushing value down to us. Actually, Eckler was going to go before us no matter what. Hopefully, he makes some crazy picks later on in the draft. You have freaking Justin Jefferson at pick 6 to FSU for Cole. Oh, my gosh. You have to be so excited if you were getting Justin Jefferson at pick 6. In this format where you have to start 3 wide receivers and these guys are going to be pushed up draft boards. Talk about an exciting start. But let's go ahead. I guess back-to-back drafts, we're taking Derrick Henry. Back-to-back drafts, we're taking Derrick Henry. We took DeAndre Swift in the 2nd round. Let's see what ends up happening in this one. Maybe we go out of our way. I hate saying these things in the live stream because, of course, when I say this on the stream, then all of a sudden we know it's for sure not going to happen. But maybe we go out of our way and we try to make this a team that we're able to stack Watson. We're able to build around the Cleveland Browns, try to chase some value that way. I don't know. We'll figure it out. You have Najee Harris at 11. You have CeeDee Lamb at pick 12. I would have been very excited to get CeeDee Lamb making it back to us, but it's very unlikely for that to happen. In our other draft, I got pretty big news. We're about to be able to get Sammy Watkins at the very end of the 17th round. I really like that other team we just drafted. And then we're still going to be able to get Jared Goff in the last round there. So Travis Kelce 14, Joe Mixon 13. Is it going to happen again? Are we going to go ahead? Are we going to start with Henry and DeAndre Swift in back-to-back drafts? Yeah, Derek decides to go Aaron Jones. Usually if you take Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones is going to be the running back that you're looking at. But I guess back-to-back drafts here, we are going to have the Derrick Henry and DeAndre Swift start. Now, what I'm going to try to avoid for y'all is I'm going to try to avoid James Conner round 3. I'm going to try to avoid Travis Etienne round 4. But let's try not to make this the exact same draft. Ryan says, Mason, today in the puppy, I got Eckler, Kelce, and how does this happen to you? Ryan says, today in one of these puppy drafts on Underdog, he got Eckler and Kelce and Mike Williams all on the same team. Off the top of my head, Austin Eckler has an ADP of 6. Travis Kelce has an ADP of 12. Mike Williams has an ADP of 29. Look at this draft board. Maybe you took Eckler at like 8 or 9. Travis Kelce fell down to 16 or 17. And then Mike Williams fell 4 picks past his ADP as well. Maybe that happened. Maybe you had like 2 people in that draft room going crazy. It's pretty nice though. Now, Javonte Williams, 21. Let's see this. I'm interested to know if Nick Chubb begins going over some of these running backs in this tier. Obviously, Nick Chubb's not going to go ahead of Saquon Barkley unless it's a non-PPR format. But like Javonte Williams versus Chubb, both committee running backs now, both projected to be with elite level quarterbacks and very efficient offenses. I wonder if all of a sudden Nick Chubb begins to go before Javonte Williams in these drafts. I don't think it's impossible to see that happen. Let's slide this down. Now, please let me know what y'all think, because this is something I want to monitor. I do think that Nick Chubb has to come up. I've been the resident Nick Chubb hater for years now when he's going late round 1. But Nick Chubb, ADP of 25. At this point, who do you prefer? Do you prefer Javonte Williams or Nick Chubb? Please let me know on that one. let's swing this back around. Okay, we have a lot of people saying Nick Chubb. That's what I thought. I figured with this Watson news, Nick Chubb will be a player eventually going before Javonte Williams. I've been drafting it that way. Like, I thought I even had more Nick Chubb on Underdog than I did. Let me go ahead. Let me pull up my exposures on my phone real quick. Because I do have a lot of Nick Chubb. I thought I even had more. I've been going out of my way trying to push him up ever so slightly. And it looks like in this draft, we're not going to start with James Conner because we should be locked into one of Josh Allen or Kyle Pitts. I think I can make the argument, oh, you want to go ahead and you want to take James Conner almost regardless, but no, I'm not going to do it to y'all. I'm not going to draft the same team in back-to-back drafts. Allen goes 31. So are we taking Mike Williams or Kyle Pitts? Looks like we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Mike Williams. Mike Williams is a wide receiver I have not drafted very often. I don't even want to freaking take Mike Williams here. We're going to do it. I've not drafted him at all because he has an ADP that pushes him before Kyle Pitts, an ADP before Josh Allen, an ADP before Michael Pittman, an ADP before DJ Moore, an ADP before Alvin Kamara. Like, personally, I'm not in love with the Mike Williams price, even when he falls to us here at pick 33. But we need a wide receiver. I told y'all we were not going to draft the same team in back-to-back drafts with Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, and James Conner. And not too many teams are going to have the combination of Henry, DeAndre Swift, and Mike Williams started off. Let's see how much Nick Chubb I have. Okay, so I have 11% Nick Chubb, and I have about 5% Javonte Williams. So I definitely have double Nick Chubb than Javonte. Let's pull this back around. Hollywood Brown off the board. I think we're going to go ahead. We are going to take Terry McLaurin. I actually like the running back value that we can find in the middle rounds later on. Let's go with a very balanced approach. 2 top running backs, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, then 2 top wide receivers afterwards. I'm not that excited. Like, if you look at my rankings, I am going to have Jalen Waddle ranked before Mike Williams. It just does come down to the ADP in that I already have so much Jalen Waddle. He's one of my most drafted wide receivers, and I have none of Mike Williams. And usually they're separated about 10 picks in fantasy drafts. So it's hard for me to ever pass on Williams to take Waddle if they're both available late. Chris says, how do you see your breakdown drafts on Underdog? Okay, so if you're drafting on Underdog, if you're not, go sign up, promo code FLOCK, link in the description. All you do is you pull up the homepage. So homepage on your phone, you go over, you hit completed drafts, and then you have all your completed drafts. You can go to 2022 exposure, click the exposure, and then it'll give you a list. You can sort it by amount of entry fees you have into a given player. You can make it quarterbacks, running back, quarterbacks and running backs, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, any combination of positions you want to look at. It is really cool because I like to track exactly how much of players that I'm drafting. I try to limit myself 20% on any given one player, but it looks like the teams at pick 3 and 4 are mirroring each other here just a little bit. You have one team with Eckler, Javonte, Kamara, Justin Herbert. Another team with Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette, and Lamar Jackson. So maybe this pushes down wide receiver value to us. Maybe we should have gone ahead and we should have taken either Breece Hall or Ezekiel Elliott over Terry McLaurin in the 4th round, but we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. Okay, so some people talking about the DeAndre Swift news. Personally, I don't think there's anything to talk about. Deontay Johnson at pick 47. Love the Deontay Johnson value that you're getting there. What other players are best available? Waller. We actually ended up taking Waller at pick 48 in our $1,000 draft. I was very excited about that. And then we also ended up taking TJ Hawkinson, I believe, at pick 97 in that draft. Okay, Darren Waller. Is this team on auto? The Kelsey pick could have easily been an auto. I'm sorry, not the Kelsey. The Tyreek Hill. The Keenan Allen pick couldn't have been. Jerry Jeudy looks like it was an auto as well. Maybe this team for the 101 is on auto now. Josh Jacobs at 50. I like Jacobs. It's nice to see that some teams are willing to go crazy and ignore ADP, take a player like Josh Jacobs about 12 picks too early, and pass on Brandon Cooks, pass on Mahomes, pass on Kittle. DK Metcalf off the board at 52. I'm completely fine with any of these top 4 players. I do think there's a teardrop after David Montgomery. I know the ADP is like neck and neck with David Montgomery and Juju Smith-Schuster. I do view them in 2 completely different tiers where I would be very happy if we can get one of these top 4 guys. Cooks off the board, so now we are down to hoping that we get Mahomes, Kittle, or David Montgomery. The team right before us decided to take Kyle Pitts. Unsure if they would want to take Kyle Pitts and George Kittle on the same roster. So maybe we're good to go because this team also on the clock decided to take Mark Andrews in the 2nd round. The team at pick 55 has Josh Allen, so maybe they don't want to go Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully they take Juju. Take Juju, take Darnell Mooney, take Godwin. Give us one of those 2 top guys. Come on. Give me Mahomes. Give me Kittle. Juju off the board. Hell yes. We are going to get one Patrick Mahomes, George Kittle. Patrick Mahomes, now my most drafted player on Underdog when you're getting him at pick 57. When I have people in the comment section telling me that they're not going to be surprised if freaking Tua Tagovailoa outscores Patrick Mahomes this year. Lisma goes Godwin. Let's think about this 1 second. Let's look at this draft board. Let's think on it just for a little bit. Just a little. Kelsey fell to 14. We'll go ahead. We'll take Patrick Mahomes. Let's take Mahomes, and if somehow, some way Kittle made it back to us, I would lose my mind. But Saram coming out, thank you, my man, says, hope you're doing well, mate. I know you think Jones would be better than Swift, but does Dylan worry you in that it could be a committee backfield in Green Bay? It is going to be a committee backfield in Green Bay. Very similar to how it's going to be a committee backfield in Detroit. Neither running back with Aaron Jones or DeAndre Swift should see 70% of the team's carries in their backfield. With both running backs, it's going to be a lot closer to about anywhere from 48% to probably about 60%. At least that's what we had last year with said 2 running backs. What I would be more concerned about is if we are going to be concerned about A.J. Dillon affecting Aaron Jones from a fantasy football perspective, we need to be worried about A.J. Dillon taking red zone work, which he did not do last year. In games where both running backs played last year, Aaron Jones was still being used in the red zone. And guys, we are 1 pick away from it happening. Oh my God, Derek, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. Oh, we are so close to getting George Kittle in the 6th round, pairing him up with Mahomes. We'll go ahead. We'll take Darnell Mooney here. I do think this is a team that's shaping up to be pretty fun. It would have been so much better if we had George Kittle making it to us there at pick 64, but he has an ADP of 51. I can't sit here and cry. I can't sit here and just pout about Derek deciding to take the clear best player available on the board. Jimmer Range says, where do you think Alvin Kamara should go in a non-best ball format? It's going to depend on your actual starting lineup requirements as well as the amount of bench spots you have. Plus, if you're able to put suspended players on the IR. Because if you're playing in a very shallow league where you only have, say, 5-6 bench spots, and you cannot put a player on the IR, and there's the possibility that Alvin Kamara gets suspended from 4 to 6 weeks, then all of a sudden, if you take Alvin Kamara and you have to have a dead roster spot on your bench for 4 to 6 weeks in a league that shallow, it is going to be detrimental to the waiver wire moves that you're actually able to make. So in the format like that, I would push Alvin Kamara down to being about an early 4th round pick. But if you're able to put Alvin Kamara on the IR, or you have a deeper bench where it's not going to be as painful to carry him throughout the course of the season until his potential suspension lets up, there I think you could take Alvin Kamara as early as the 2nd round. So now, Jalen Hurts goes to pick 65, Michael Thomas 66. What do y'all think we should have done? Do you think we should have taken George Kittle and then Jalen Hurts at pick 64? Or do you think we should have instead taken Patrick Mahomes and Darnell Mooney? I like what we came away with. It is a little worrisome how much Patrick Mahomes we are going to end up having when it's all said and done. But I've said this about 20 live streams in a row. I'm a simple man. I have a small little peanut brain. Like I have a lizard brain. And when I see Patrick Mahomes at pick 57, I lose all capabilities. I lose all function. And I just draft Patrick Mahomes. Like, you know, the evolution chart where you have the monkeys turning into man. Whenever I see Patrick Mahomes in the 5th round, I go about 3 steps back. Become a lot more like a monkey than a man. Now, Drake London goes at 74. Amari Cooper falls all the way to 73. Amari Cooper, post DeShaun Watson news, makes it past Burrow, Devonta Smith, Dalton Schultz, Miles Sanders. Trey Lance doesn't really count. It's back-to-back picks. But that is some great value on Amari Cooper. You have to be so excited about that. And immediately, you're going to be looking at coming away with DeShaun Watson later on. I'm so surprised that the team at pick 2 that took Nick Chubb, why would you not take Amari Cooper at 71 and then have the potential double stack reach on DeShaun Watson a little bit later on? Very interesting. Okay. So let's move this down. We have Allen Lazard, 76. I'm always excited to see Allen Lazard go off the board. Like, if we would have had Elijah Moore making it to us, the fact that Allen Lazard is being drafted before Elijah Moore does always surprise me. Now, there are not too many exciting picks that we are going to have access to. Maybe we go ahead and reach on Clyde Edwards-Helaire just so we can pair him up with Patrick Mahomes. I'm fine with the price point of CEH. If I'm looking at the wide receivers in this range, Kadarius Toney, Hunter Renfrow, Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, they're all going to be in the same tier for me. I'm honestly fine taking a TJ Hawkinson on the way back around. I am trying to just build up as many TJ Hawkinson shares up as I possibly can. So I do really like the idea of getting that stack, getting that correlation in with Kansas City Chiefs offense. It's tougher to pay this price on Clyde Edwards-Helaire when we're used to being able to go ahead and take him in the middle of the 8th round. Like, if y'all remember, in drafts 2 weeks ago, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was falling to like pick 91 consistently. Now, I've seen a lot of pushback with that. I have seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire climbing. It's not like people take him 10 picks after Tony Pollard now. Okay. But if we're looking at how we want to build out from here, I'm still not going to be interested in Gage. I think we go Hunter Renfrow, Brandon Ayuk, TJ Hawkinson is the 3 guys we're looking at, as well as Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I don't love the MBS value. That's why I would rather reach on Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the last round to make sure that we're guaranteed correlation in Kansas City rather than reach on Marquez Valdes-Scantling at pick 88. Keep in mind, we also have the potential to get Sky Moore on the way back around in the 9th round, and we can also get McCole Hardman for our Patrick Mahomes stack. But Derek on the clock, he decides to go Marquez Valdes-Scantling, so we don't even have an option. Let's think through this real quick. Do we want to take Ayuk or Hawkinson? Let's take Hawkinson. I really like Hawkinson. I think if we get another strong tight end past him, then all of a sudden we only have to draft 2 of them. Also, we took Jared Goff in the 2nd round, so I think this makes a clear play for Jared Goff at the very end of the draft. I think Jared Goff's price point is very obtainable, and he should score a significant amount of points and contribute to our starting lineup compared to the other wide receivers and running backs going in that range. So let's go ahead. Let's take TJ Hawkinson at 88. So far on this team, we have Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire at running back, Mike Williams, Terry McLaurin, Darnell Mooney at wide receiver, Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, and TJ Hawkinson at tight end. So at this point, we are hoping that we get Sky Moore on the way back around at pick 105. And then past that, if we get a McCole Hardman, that would be exciting as well. Nick says, news just broke on an Amari Cooper injury. Okay, let me go through and let me figure out what's going on with Amari Cooper. Let me search Twitter real quick. Odell is trending as well. Let me figure out what's going on with Odell. I don't see anything on Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper looked at by trainer. Sounds like the Amari Cooper injury news is legitimately nothing. Let me figure out what's going on with Odell. Why is Odell's like fake trending? Like he has like 1,500 tweets about him. Essentially, I think it's the injury to James Washington. A lot of people are saying, oh, Odell to Dallas. Go get Odell. Go get Odell. Go get Odell. Which... it would be exciting, but you have to question, like, why did the Dallas Cowboys go ahead, move off of Amari Cooper's contract for really no purpose whatsoever if they are just going to re-sign an injured Michael Gallup with that money and then also sign an injured Odell Beckham Jr.? Like, I feel like if you're going to move off Amari Cooper literally for nothing, just to dump his contract, should probably have a better plan beyond that. Real quick, let's blow this up, guys. I'm going to try to get y'all 4 or 5 drafts tonight. All I ask, of course, other than you signing up on Underdog Fantasy so you can draft with us, link in the description. Use promo code FLOCK so you get our draft guide, 300 pages, our rankings, and a 100% deposit bonus, is to go down there, drop a like on the live stream. Nobody is streaming every single night like we are, and we're about to pick it up to 4 or 5 drafts a night so y'all can get in as many of these as possible. Gardner Minshew says, would you consider Matthew Stafford a safe pick, Mace? Oh, 100%. Matthew Stafford was a safe selection in Detroit. Matthew Stafford was putting up a ridiculous amount of passing volume. The fact that he is, I don't even care about the Super Bowl, but the fact that he is coming off the season that he had, and Sean McVay is trying to tell us that the wide receiver 2 is going to be better this year with Allen Robinson than what they had going into last year with Robert Woods. Yes, I think Matthew Stafford is a safe selection. I am uncertain if he has the elite level ceiling, given the fact that he has access to no rushing upside whatsoever. But we shouldn't focus too much in on that. Let's go ahead. Let's take Tyler Lockett. In a best ball format, if you're looking at Lockett, 2.5 yards per route run last year. Let me pull up my draft guide, which of course you can use promo code FLOCK on Underdog. And this draft guide should be updated relatively soon. I'm hoping that tomorrow morning I'll be able to go through and I'll be able to give the official updates to the rankings and the draft guide with the DeShaun Watson news, as well as the Julio Jones signing. I had my car. The battery died this morning, so I had to spend pretty much all day fixing that horrible situation. But tomorrow, I should be able to get everything updated for y'all. But regardless, if I head over to this draft guide, I look up Tyler Lockett to look at how damn efficient he was last year. The only receivers that had more yards per route run last season than Tyler Lockett: Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp. Now, of course, Tyler Lockett is going to be significantly worse with no Russell Wilson. He will be significantly worse. The situation is horrendous. But that's why you're drafting him at wide receiver 50 and not wide receiver 18 like last year. Okay. So after we take Lockett, we have Claypool off the board at 108. We're not going to reach on Mecole Hardman here. If Mecole Hardman makes it back to us in the 11th round, fine. We'll take Mecole Hardman. Kirk Cousins, 110. Derek Carr is not going to be interesting for us. We don't even have the option to take him. Derek takes him regardless. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Devin Singletary. I don't love Devin Singletary's ADP if we're going to compare him to someone like James Cook. I'm definitely going to have a lot more James Cook in fantasy drafts when Cook usually goes behind Devin Singletary by about 10, 11, 12 picks, when we can consider James Cook as the running back that's going to get the primary work in the receiving game, combined with the majority of the usage down the stretch. Not at the beginning of the season, but particularly in weeks 15, 16, and 17 when it matters. But this is the one draft where James Cook goes pick 93, and you have Devin Singletary at 112. Devin Singletary at 112, I think, is going to be an obtainable price. He should have a role in one of the most productive offenses in the NFL. Of course, he was very good for us down the stretch last year. I need to stop hitting the wrong button. Mr. Keefe says, is Baker in the range of Daniel Jones now in a Dynasty Superflex format? No. Daniel Jones has a higher ceiling than Baker Mayfield. I mean, with Daniel Jones, I understand not many people talk about it, but Daniel Jones has sneaky rushing upside. Daniel Jones can easily get to 400 rushing yards in a season, and 400 rushing yards in a season is massive. If we are converting, say, 400 rushing yards and not even a ton of rushing touchdowns. So we're not going to give him 10 rushing touchdowns, but say he has 4 rushing touchdowns and 400 rushing yards. All of a sudden, that is going to be a total of 64 fantasy points. And if we look at that from a passing yardage standpoint, that's 1,600 passing yards. We know Baker Mayfield's not going to run the ball whatsoever. So whatever the passing volume's like with Baker Mayfield versus Daniel Jones, with Daniel Jones's rushing production, essentially just remove the rushing stats, add 1,600 passing yards to Daniel Jones versus Baker Mayfield from a fantasy football context. Ben says, I've got 71% Isaiah McKenzie. That can't be good. My man, if he is actually the starting slot wide receiver for Buffalo, you know that's going to be pretty good. Now, I'm still expecting it to be Jamison Crowder. I know pretty much every beat report that you read throughout Jamison Crowder's injury, saying, oh, Isaiah McKenzie's the guy, Isaiah McKenzie's the guy, Isaiah McKenzie's the guy. I still want to bet that it's Crowder, but I can't blame you for taking that much McKenzie. But now we have Rachaad White, pick 120. Not that bad for us. In terms of players that we're hoping that fall, Mecole Hardman would be ideal. It's not like Mecole Hardman's guaranteed to fall. I mean, we're 7 picks away. He's the top wide receiver according to ADP. So we should expect that Mecole Hardman goes off the board. If we don't get Mecole Hardman, I think Justin Fields is going to be in play. Ronald Jones will be in play. I mean, we took Darnell Mooney on this team. I think if we take Justin Fields, we should be good to go with only taking 2 quarterbacks in this draft based on the rushing upside that Justin Fields has. Gesicki goes pick 122. Let's see. Okay, so there's only 2 teams before us that have drafted 2 quarterbacks. Joshua Palmer goes 123. Interesting to see Palmer go that early. It helps us, of course, if it's going to push down Mecole Hardman. This team on the clock only has 3 wide receivers. Their 3 wide receivers are Metcalf, Devonta Smith, and Allen Lazard. So personally, if I were them, I would go Mecole Hardman, but they don't. They instead decided to take Cole Kmet. It's going to help us. I don't want to get my hopes up. Pat Frymuth off the board. Okay, guys, we're close. We're close to making it happen. The teams after us, Derek has Kyler and Derek Carr, so he can't take another quarterback. Robe has Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott. Dropland has Kirk Cousins. They can go with another quarterback if they would like. I don't know if they would take Justin Fields. So you know what? We may roll the dice on getting Justin Fields on the way back around. Ronald Jones is gone now. Should we roll the dice? Take Alexander Madison. See if we can get Fields on the way back around, because if we were not to take Alexander Madison here, the next wide receiver that we're probably going to go with, let's roll the dice. Alexander Madison has no shot at making it back. Justin Fields is the no-brainer pick to this team, but very similar to what we did in the last draft where we took Darnell Mooney. Looking at the teams behind us, Derek has Kyler and Derek Carr. He's done. The team at the 112 is Russell Wilson and Dak. He's done. This is the team we need to worry about, the team with Kirk Cousins. They go Dameon Pierce. We dodged the first bullet. We have to dodge one more bullet to get Justin Fields making it back. And that team that just took Dameon Pierce that we have to be worried about taking Justin Fields, they have Kirk Cousins. And you have Irv Smith Jr. falling. Irv Smith Jr. is the easy pick. He's fallen 13 picks past his ADP. You have 1 tight end. You have Kirk Cousins. Irv is the guy. Of course, I'm saying this selfishly. They go Tolbert. I don't give a damn. You go Tolbert. We are going to get Justin Fields. We rolled the dice. It worked out. We're done at running back unless we have some crazy value, but we're probably done at RB. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Justin Fields here as our second quarterback. We are going to get that paired up with a Mr. Darnell Mooney. And I think we're going to be very excited about that. Perfect. Okay, that's sometimes what you have to do. If it was just a private draft, I don't think we have to roll the dice. I don't think we have to try to find the best outcome possible. However, in a puppy draft where we are looking for the elite level ceiling, we are trying to beat 200,000 teams. You have to make plays like that. So Madison 129, Fields 136. I'll be excited. And at this point, when we have the combination of Patrick Mahomes and Justin Fields, we are really hoping that all of a sudden we have more quarterbacks off the board. And I really like this DeShaun Watson value at 126. Watson's going to be the perfect quarterback for this format because so much of your expected value will come in that fantasy football playoff tournament in weeks 15, 16, and 17. So Watson, of course, is going to be a great pick in that. He should also be at a low ownership in that playoff tournament, considering the fact that the teams who draft him are going to be missing out on a lot of production through the first 6 weeks. Killer Gorilla says, who are your top 5 league winners this year on Underdog? Boring, but I really do think Patrick Mahomes in the late 5th, like where we are consistently drafting him, I think Patrick Mahomes at pick 57 is going to have a nice win rate. I think before and even now, the price point's fine, but definitely beforehand, if you're looking at Michael Thomas should have an extremely high hit rate. He goes at 66 here, but remember, Michael Thomas used to have an ADP of wide receiver 40. Wide receiver 40 in these drafts. You were getting Michael Thomas in the 8th round. So I think Michael Thomas back then is going to be a league winner. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there were a ton of drafts that had him going in the 8th round. If I had to pick 3 guys, I think those are going to be my 3. Maybe I'm missing someone. I'm just going off the top of the head here. Henry says Isaiah McKenzie in the 12th. Yeah, Isaiah McKenzie goes a 141 in this draft. We were just talking about him potentially winning the starting slot job in Buffalo. I would be fine if, like, you draft Isaiah McKenzie here, if, say, Jamison Crowder went down for the year. If Jamison Crowder is done for the year, you're like, okay, Isaiah McKenzie 100% is going to be the starting slot wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills. Then, yeah, I mean, if you want to take him in round 12, round 13, sure, you do you. This offense should put up a ton of points. But until that happens, I think it's going to be pretty damn tough. Ashton says, yeah, Michael Thomas is undraftable in Best Ball Mania. Hey, you know who maxed out Best Ball Mania before Watson's suspension was released? Before we had major news completely shifting draft boards for the rest of the contest? You know who maxed out Best Ball Mania back when Michael Thomas was an 8th round selection? This guy is 14% Watson, and Michael Thomas was my number 1 drafted wide receiver. I'm very excited about the teams that we have drafted. I think we have crushed this offseason, and the season hasn't even started. Now, of course, I say that, and all of a sudden, we're going to crash and burn by the time we get to week 3. Like, trust me, I understand that's going to happen. We will crash and burn quickly, but let me live. Let me get excited while I still can. Now, please go to the live chat right now. Did something happen with Irv Smith Jr.? I'm going to Twitter. I'm running, checking. I don't like his ADP at 121, but we're getting him at 143. Did something happen that I missed out on? I don't see any reports there. Okay, so I guess he left practice with a possible injury. People saying it's not serious. Someone tweets out, Irv Smith Jr. had an emergency bathroom situation. Nothing to worry about. I don't know if that's a joke, but it would be a pretty funny joke if that is. Okay, yeah. A lot of reports saying Irv Smith Jr., good to go. Irv Smith Jr. is fine. Just left practice briefly. So we will use that brief leave of absence to our advantage, and we'll get Irv Smith Jr. 153, 32 picks behind his ADP. And I think when we have Irv Smith Jr. as well as TJ Hawkinson, now all of a sudden, if we don't want to, we don't have to draft the 3rd tight end. Now, if we have a great value making it to us, sure we will. But I think we've locked in tight end. I think we've locked in quarterback and running back. From here on out, I think we can go 5 wide receivers in a row. We're still flexible where it's not like the last draft where we drafted 4 running backs in a row where we weren't allowed to draft another one. We just had to really hammer in those receivers. I think we have some more options, some more flexibility in this draft. But during this time, it looks like we're going to be going for the wide receiver position. Let's think through this. At receiver right now, we have Mike Williams, McLaurin, Darnell Mooney, and Tyler Lockett. Jamison Crowder off the board. Let's go ahead. Let's take Van Jefferson. I'm going to pass on DJ Chark here for the reason that we have TJ Hawkinson. We also have DeAndre Swift. So for us to add in a 3rd Detroit Lion on a team where we're not going to have Jared Goff, I feel like it would be very reckless, and that if for whatever reason all 3 of those players become league-winning options, Jared Goff's going to as well. Jared Goff would have to be top 10 in the NFL in passing yards. And we already invested into Mahomes. We already invested into Justin Fields. I don't think we can take Jared Goff at the very end. We want to go with the wide receiver here. Of course, the injury is going to be concerning with Van Jefferson, but a 160, I think we'll be fine with it in a best ball format, especially if, say, the Dallas Cowboys go and sign Odell Beckham Jr., and all of a sudden we don't have to worry about him going back to Los Angeles. So let's take Van Jefferson, 160. And Van Jefferson was one of my worst calls last year. I mean, Van Jefferson was an 18th round selection, 17th round selection in so many best ball drafts. And I was sitting there going, oh, why are people taking Van Jefferson? I don't get this pick. I would never make this pick. And he was clearly a fantastic 18th round pick. Sean says, Mason, you should try a 5 wide receiver start tonight. Saw it last night and decided to try it and loved my team. went Diggs, Evans, A.J. Brown, Deontay Johnson, DK Metcalf, J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Kareem Hunt. I will say that is a fantastic team. But at the same time, you got extremely lucky to have J.K. Dobbins falling to you in the 6th round. Looks like it was, you start Diggs. Actually, yeah, you had Dobbins making it to you in the 6th. Gibson making it to you in the 7th. Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 8th. Kareem Hunt in the 9th. So, of course, if I could have that exact same start, I would do it. I think that's where the value probably fell in your specific draft. So there are a lot of drafts where I do go 4 wide receivers in a row. I do go 5 wide receivers in a row. It's just going to depend what the board gives us. I'll try to go with the wide receiver heavy approach at some point tonight for you. But if it's not open, like if I'm going to have to go ahead, if I'm going to have to reach on like Deebo Samuel over Aaron Jones, Deebo Samuel over DeAndre Swift, probably not going to happen, my man. Okay, but now we have Paris Campbell going pick 167, Chark off the board 164. Probably a good thing for us to see these tight ends and these quarterbacks get drafted. Wandale 169. Paul says he has 37% Davante Adams. How early are you taking Davante Adams to have 37% of him? Paul, you have to give me your explanation on Davante Adams. Because Davante Adams was one of my most drafted players last year. He was 100% my most drafted round 1 option. I was taking Davante Adams at pick 3. But please let me know your thought process this season with the worst quarterback and more target competition. I need to hear it. But Donald Parham goes 172. This is clearly a Los Angeles Chargers fan. He reaches on Isaiah Spiller. He reaches on Austin Eckler. He reaches on Donald Parham. He reaches on Justin Herbert. He's paying the rake for us. At wide receiver, he only has DK Metcalf, Allen Lazard, and like Isaiah McKenzie. Those are his 3 receivers. That guy's just completely toast. And if you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like in the live stream, and we will fire up another one right after this. I want to go ahead. I want to try to get 3 or 4 drafts tonight. All I ask is you go ahead and drop a like in the stream. Okay, so see if we can find Paul's message. Now, Paul hasn't given us an explanation on his 37% Davante Adams just yet. Okay. Pick 177. We just go with another receiver here. We're still very thin at the wide receiver position. Let's go ahead. Let's take Marvin Jones. We just passed 400 likes in the stream as well. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Paul says, I take him early as 9 or 8. I just think the Raiders offense will be good, and I like to stack Waller, Jacobs, and Carr. Okay. Adequate explanation. But at this point, yeah, we can just continue to hammer in these receivers. If we get Corey Davis, we get Alec Pierce making it back to us, we go ahead, and I think we draft Corey Davis or Alec Pierce. Derek on the clock. He only had 4 running backs. He goes Keel Herbert at 178. Player falling 17 picks past his ADP. Of course, maybe you could make the argument we want to get some correlation in there with the Chicago Bears offense. We should go ahead and we should take Keel Herbert ourselves. However, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough one for me. Colin says, who are your highest drafted players? My man, we talk about this every single draft. I'm sure people are annoyed at me talking about this. Quarterback, highest drafted quarterback is now officially Patrick Mahomes, with him being a 5th-round pick over the past few weeks. Highest drafted wide receiver is Michael Thomas. I haven't been drafting as much Michael Thomas as of late because his price point is significantly higher and I already have so much of him. Josh Jacobs, I believe, is my most drafted running back when we're getting him in round 6. Let's take Corey Davis. We just need wide receiver points. I think Corey Davis is going to be a veteran receiver, seeing snaps, seeing opportunity. And then at tight end, I don't know who my most drafted tight end is. I would assume it's one of those elite level guys because I tend to try to reach and grab a tight end that I believe has access to an elite level ceiling. But let me go ahead. Let me try to find that out for you. Tight end, my highest drafted player is George Kittle. Wide receiver, Michael Thomas. Running back, Josh Jacobs. Quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. But the highest percentage owned player that I have is Patrick Mahomes at 20%. So it's not like we are going crazy. Keep in mind, I'm going to do like probably 600, 700 drafts this offseason. So it would be reckless for me to go out there and be similar to y'all and draft 37% of a given player, because if that player goes down week 1, all of a sudden I have to declare bankruptcy, which would be pretty damn tough. Killer Gorilla says, Mason, how do you feel about Houston's backfield for the late rounds? I have a lot of Marlon Mack as my last running back. I don't have a great read on the situation. Obviously, you are getting a massive discount on said players. I'd be worried about Marlon Mack potentially not having access to a great receiving down role in Houston. And if we expect the Houston Texans offense to be one of the worst offenses in the NFL, then all of a sudden, you probably should be worried in general about access to high value touches and that he probably won't have them in the red zone. But we are going to go ahead. We are going to fire in to the next puppy draft. Let's see how many spots are available in this draft. We have 4 spots open. If anybody wants to get in here, I'd imagine this fills almost immediately. But yeah, we are filled. Where are we going to be going? In the last draft, I should probably just go ahead. I should probably queue up a bunch of wide receivers. So I think we're just done at all other positions. Okay, so we have the 103. I love the 103 pick this year. I mean, at 103, obviously, you're looking at Cooper Kupp. We've seen that some people are taking Justin Jefferson at 3, pushing Cooper Kupp down to pick 4 in a lot of these drafts, which I've been taking advantage of that Cooper Kupp value. But yeah, I'm going to be excited to go Cooper Kupp round 3, then figure it out beyond that. Okay. You know what? I need to check how much James Washington I have, because I have been drafting 18th round James Washington as much as it pains me to see. Okay. A lot better than I thought. 4% James Washington. I would have guessed that was like 10% James Washington. Riley says, can you explain the puppy draft? Yeah, we did this at the very beginning of the live stream. But real quick, let me just roll this into an Underdog ad read. If you are not on Underdog Fantasy, please go fix your life. Have some fun. Get into these fantasy football drafts with us. We do this every single night on the live stream because it's so fun. I've already done over 400 of these drafts. You can find a link in the description. And when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, you will get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 draft guide, 300 pages, and a 100% deposit match. Literally with just a $10 deposit, you are getting our draft guide, and you can have some fun, hop into these drafts with us. But a puppy draft is going to be a large tournament on Underdog Fantasy where there are 12-team leagues. First place and second place in your 12-team league are going to get paid, but a small percentage of every league pot is set aside for a massive fantasy football tournament that the winners and second place finisher of every 12-team league are going to be invited to. And in said tournament, we're going to get Christian McCaffrey at pick 3, but in said tournament, crazy prizes up to the top because it's $1 million prize pool. It's like $200,000 for first, $100,000 for second, and so on down the line. So it's a very exciting thing in that you can go through, you can draft these teams, have access to the possibility of life-changing money, and it creates a couple different interesting factors in these drafts, in that you have to think, what players have access to elite level ceilings in weeks 15, 16, and 17? That's why I'm willing to go ahead. I'm willing to, back then, before the Watson suspension came out, I was willing to draft Watson before other people because I said, yeah, he's probably going to be suspended for the beginning portion of the season. But if he weren't, all of a sudden in weeks 15, 16, and 17, he could be the quarterback 1 overall. So it makes players like that a little bit more valuable. Paul says, Mason, I feel like you have a lot of digs, and I've been fading him just because his age, and Allen spreads the ball a lot, and his age concern. Okay, my man, you just told me that you had 37% Devontae Adams. Stephon Diggs is 28 years old. Devontae Adams is 29 years old. And if you're looking at Josh Allen, quote unquote, spreading the ball around, we go back to 2020 for Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs posted a target share of 27.5%. Derek Carr has never locked into an option, has never come close to giving a receiver or even a tight end or any player a 27% team target share. So personally, I think that you're getting better quarterback play with Josh Allen compared to Derek Carr. I think the age concern isn't really a concern if you're willing to draft Devontae Adams. And I think you have less target competition in Buffalo. I think that you have Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow as better options than Dawson Knox and Gabriel Davis. Now, Joe Mixon goes at 12. Warms my heart to see first round Joe Mixon. Warms my heart to see first round Joe Mixon. Okay, let's move this down. CeeDee Lamb goes at 13. Why are we looking at what players are available? And none of these guys that we're looking at the top of ADP are going to be available to us at the end of the second round. We're probably going to come away with someone like Tyreek Hill. And I don't know if you heard, but Tyreek Hill is now playing with the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. Have you heard? Corvette says, if Odell Beckham Jr. signed in Buffalo, would you drop Diggs down at all? Yeah, I'd probably drop him down slightly. Gabriel Davis would be hit a lot worse. I think that another player that could potentially go over to be a Buffalo Bill is Will Fuller. I've drafted so much Will Fuller. I made the mistake this year of drafting more Will Fuller than I did Julio Jones. I only had about 8-9% Julio Jones, so I was right about average. It's not like I was fading him, but I wasn't going out of my way to target him, where I have like 16% Will Fuller. I wish I would have flipped those, but I'm still confident that Fuller is going to find himself a landing spot. I mean, you have Dallas needing a receiver, Baltimore needing a receiver, Buffalo needing a receiver, Green Bay needing a receiver, and I'm not sure if you heard, but the Watson news came out. Let me actually tweet this out right now. I'm going to tweet out now that we know Watson's suspension, ... when does Will Fuller sign? I would love Will Fuller over to Cleveland. Selfishly, for all my Will Fuller teams. Now let's pull this back around. Let's see who we are going to come away with. Maybe we make an interesting running back start, similar to the team that we had at the very beginning of the live stream. Rent free on the clock. They started Justin Jefferson. Looks like this is going to be a slow draft. People are taking their time. They go Leonard Fournette. Never mind. I don't think we have to make this a running back build. I would have been worried if we had Tyreek Hill off the board, then all of a sudden it's like T. Higgins or Nick Chubb. Probably going to prefer to go ahead and take Nick Chubb there. But now I think if we can take Tyreek Hill, we're going to be completely fine. So I would break it down from here. In a vacuum, I'd prefer Nick Chubb, but I think Javonte Williams would be a more unique combination. And then after that, we're going to go this way. So the reason I'm putting Javonte Williams here is when you have Javonte Williams and Tyreek Hill with ADPs right next to each other, there are not going to be many teams in this overall contest that are going to be able to pair both players up. So that's why I'd be willing to draft Javonte Williams over Nick Chubb on this specific roster. So yeah, I think Nick Chubb's probably going to be a player that now Watson signed, maybe, just maybe, we're able to move him up over Javonte in our rankings. But because we have Tyreek Hill on this team and we want a unique combination, I think we go Javonte Williams 27 when he falls 5 picks past his ADP. Derek says, my fiance was having me do some stuff for her. Missed this one. All good, my man. Promise you. Your fiance is probably more important. I haven't met her, but I'd imagine she's probably more important than this puppy draft. Now, you're going to feel real bad when maybe this was the puppy draft where you could have won $200,000. Yeah. Maybe you would feel real bad in that scenario, but I got breaking news for you. I crunched the numbers. This probably was not the draft you were winning $200,000 because there's the team at pick 3. I've done my scouting report on them. It's like a super dumb name. Like, who goes by Fantasy Flock? Like, a very dumb name. But I've done my scouting report, and they're a heavy hitter. You're not going to be able to win $200,000 in a draft that they are in because they're going to be the team to win Puppy 3 this year. Just mathematically speaking, it's not going to be you. Okay. Sean says, Mason, what's your outlook on Alvin Kamara with the DeShaun Watson news? I've had a lot of questions like this. Like, how are we looking at Alvin Kamara's potential suspension now that you have 6 games for Watson? I think that they are completely different type scenarios. Maybe if you want to talk about the fact that Alvin Kamara is now going to go to court later, this is something that people have always talked about. People have always said that Alvin Kamara is going to try to get this postponed where it won't affect this season. So Alvin Kamara should slide up draft boards. Remember, Alvin Kamara, at one point, we were drafting in the 4th freaking round. You had best ball mania drafts. You had massive large field tournament drafts where people were so worried about potential 6 games for Alvin Kamara that you were getting him in the 4th round of fantasy. And Travis Etienne goes 35. Okay, James Conner went 29. I was going to say, you're taking Travis Etienne over James Conner post James Robinson news. Kyle Pitts making it to the 4th round here. Oh, I would be losing my mind if we were able to go with Joe Mixon, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, and Kyle Pitts. Oh, that's exciting. That is very exciting. I am jealous of level 1 over there. MLS Pro says, do you think the Browns sign another quarterback? Realistically speaking, who would they sign? Who are they going to sign for 6 weeks? That's going to be better than Jacoby Brissett, who's been with the team and's been training with the team. Like, you're going to have to bring in a new team quarterback. You're going to have to give them valuable first-team reps, which you don't want to be giving away. Watson's new to the team. There are a lot of new pieces in that offense. I mean, David Bell's new. Amari Cooper's new. Those first-team reps in training camp for Cleveland, they're very valuable. So to go ahead and to bring in a new quarterback to try to catch him up to speed just for a 6-game stretch where you can play him over Jacoby Brissett and possibly have a minor upgrade, it makes no sense, in my opinion. I think you will have Jacoby Brissett for the first 6 weeks, and then I think you will have DeShaun Watson for the rest of the season. Williams says, Mason, I joined a slow draft a few days ago, assuming picks would be 2 or 3 minutes instead of 30 seconds. No, yeah, those slow drafts on Underdog Fantasy, like the $1,000 draft that we are in on Underdog, if you're going to join a slow draft on Underdog, you better be prepared for it to go slow. They are not lying when they say they're slow drafts. They're like 8-hour timers that pause overnight. So like I joined that $1,000 draft on Underdog legitimately over a week ago, and we are in the 9th round. And I've maybe joined 10 days ago. Like, you go like 1 round per day in those slow drafts. That's why I keep it with the live drafts on Underdog. I understand a lot of people like the slow ones. Like, people getting like 20 slow drafts at once. I'm all about the live draft live. I also think you can find more values in live drafts as well. Okay. So we've started with Christian McCaffrey, Javonte Williams, and Tyreek Hill. Herbert's not going to be too appealing for us. I think we would go ahead. We would break it down like this in terms of the players that we are looking at. Deontay Johnson, Darren Waller are going to be my 2 top guys. If we get Justin Herbert making it back to us in the 5th round, I'll definitely take Herbert in the 5th. We're probably going to get an elite level quarterback in the 5th almost regardless. Let's take Darren Waller here. Don't care about him sitting out practice. Remember, Darren Waller was sitting out practice at the beginning of last season as well, and a lot of people were very worried and moved Darren Waller down draft boards probably a little bit too far. So after we take Darren Waller, we're just going to see what elite level quarterback makes it back to us between Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson. I'm completely fine with both guys. I've been drafting pretty much an elite level quarterback here at the beginning of the 5th round in every single draft that I have. And if I don't get an elite level quarterback, if I don't get Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, or Patrick Mahomes, usually it's either Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has been the guy falling to the later 5th. That's why I've gotten more of him. Then instead, usually I go George Kittle. We probably don't do that here since we drafted Darren Waller. Possibly we pivot over and decide to go with Jerry Jeudy. So yeah, let's cue it up like this. Let's see if Tiston Wings, I think that's how you say this, even wants to go with an elite level QB. Because they've started off going with the hero running back approach, centering around Jonathan Taylor and smashing wide receiver. So yeah, they go Juju Smith-Schuster, 49. So we are going to get one of Justin Herbert or Lamar Jackson. I almost hope that Herbert falls. Even though, of course, if you're drafting Justin Herbert, you definitely prefer it to be on a roster where you have Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, and that not many people at all are going to be getting a 5th round Justin Herbert. So I think the uniqueness of our roster is going to make this a very appealing bet. So yeah, let's go ahead. Let's take Justin Herbert at pick 51. So far, this draft, I think we've crushed it. This draft, CMC, Javonte Williams at running back. At wide receiver, we have Tyreek Hill. At tight end, we have Darren Waller. And I actually did another draft like this on Underdog Fantasy this morning where I went ahead and I took early 5th round Justin Herbert just because I thought it was going to be unique. And at the same time, really, there were no other players that I could be convinced to go elsewhere with. And all of a sudden, we were able to find fine values later on. We had Joshua Palmer at a respectable range in that draft. At the same time, we had Isaiah Spiller in a respectable range. So we still had a double stack with the Los Angeles Chargers. However, it was a more unique roster, and I think very appealing in this format overall. Jimmer Range says, will there be any more $1,000 leagues? I don't see any. My man, I wish I was important enough to Underdog Fantasy to have that information to be able to answer your question. But sadly, I do not. I'm assuming, and it's a strong assumption, that the big dog drafts are going to be back where they will have the $250 drafts yet again. And I'm hoping that you hop in those drafts with us, my dude. We are going to do those very often as the season approaches. I'd imagine they have at least another high stakes contest. They've had the $500 Bulldog draft. They've had the $1,000 Great Dane draft this offseason. I'd imagine that they have another high stakes contest for us to be able to hop into. But DK Metcalf goes pick 58 here. DK Metcalf continuously falling. Metcalf is a player that I'm willing to draft in this range. I thought he was overvalued at the beginning of the offseason, specifically in Dynasty Fantasy Football. We were putting out a bunch of, I hate saying hate content, but hate his price content. A bunch of content saying sell DK Metcalf, avoid DK Metcalf. You're getting Metcalf as a wide receiver 3 here when he's going to pick 58. I think that's a completely fine price point. It's your boy, Pauly Chip says, do we know why Darren Waller has not been practicing? I think it's nothing major. I mean, last year, Darren Waller wasn't practicing, and it was nothing. If I see Darren Waller pick 46, I take Darren Waller pick 46. Until we have actual news where we should be making an adjustment, I'm going to be completely fine here. Now we have Amon-Ra St. Brown going pick 60. It looks like Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be maintaining his wide receiver ranking in these drafts relatively well. I figured based on some reports that you were getting, just say the DeShaun Watson news in general, I figured you may have Amon-Ra St. Brown slipping in these drafts ever so slightly. But no, looks like 60 is going to happen. Michael Thomas going up at 62, guys. Y'all have to give me so much credit. We were calling Michael Thomas a must-draft wide receiver in the 7th round, and then all of a sudden, he falls to the 8th. We were getting called idiots. I was getting called the dumbest person ever, saying he was a must-draft player in the 7th, and then his value fell. Trust me, it pained me. I wish I would have taken it back in the 7th round and said he was only a must-draft wide receiver in the 8th. But now, Michael Thomas skyrocketing up these draft boards. It feels very good. It feels very good to know that a lot of people that follow the channel have 8th round Michael Thomas in their drafts and have access to elite level ceilings. And we don't have to reach on Michael Thomas over J.K. Dobbins now. Now we are able to take Dobbins when people are taking Michael Thomas at the beginning of the 6th. Okay. So Adam Thielen goes at pick 66. Derek says, hit the like and subscribe button. Let's go. Yes, sir. Thank you, of course, Derek, for coming out here every single night. And also, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on the live stream. I'm going to try to get 4 or 5 drafts going for y'all every single night until the season starts. All I ask is, of course, you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK so you can draft with us, and you get our rankings, a 100% deposit match, our draft guide, and, of course, you support the channel as you do so. And also, drop that like on the stream because it truly does help. But I really hope we get J.K. Dobbins making it to us at pick 70. Doesn't happen. Between these wide receivers with Elijah Moore, Devonta Smith, DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Lazard, I do think you were going to have a massive fall off after DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not a massive fan of Dalton Schultz. Joe Burrow is a quarterback that I'm never going to be taking in the 6th. I'll take him in the 7th on rosters where we have either T. Higgins or Jamar Chase. But if we don't have either wide receiver, there's no reason, in my opinion, to go ahead and to reach on Joe Burrow in the 6th round, especially when we got Justin Herbert at 51. 51, Justin Herbert. You can't pass up on that. Now, Nick coming out, long-time member of the Flock, says, hey, man, and I got to tell you, I was recently in Canada. Just, no, our resident Canadian Flock member says, hey, man, PPR Dynasty Superflex, 12-team league. My quarterbacks are Allen, Stafford, and Cousins. Was offered DK Metcalf and Kyler Murray for Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. What are your thoughts? I'm going to lean with the elite level quarterback. I'm going to lean with a Kyler Murray. I think if you just chalk up the raw points per game that you're going to be looking at from either combination, you're going to always go with that elite level quarterback option that you were getting with a Kyler, especially if we get some of those rushing touchdowns coming back this upcoming season. Let's go ahead. Let's take Schultz here. I don't love Dalton Schultz at his ADP, but we had those wide receivers flying off the board. I said, Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins is the last guy in that tier. Don't feel the need to reach on elite level tight end. I'm sorry, an elite level quarterback in this range. And possibly we can just use it as a tiebreaker and saying with the James Washington injury, all of a sudden they're going to have to lean even heavier on Dalton Schultz, which when Dalton Schultz, remember like a month ago, Dalton Schultz was going at the beginning of the 6th round. Like, I don't have a ton of Dalton Schultz in these drafts. I think it'll be a unique combination with Darren Waller. So let's go ahead. Let's take him. And if we get Dak Prescott making it back to us in 94, hell, we can take Dak Prescott there. And that may be a very, very unique team. Joey coming out with a donation. Thank you. Says, what's up, Mason? Love the content. Had a fire puppy draft earlier today. Let me know what you think. Diggs in the first. Okay, Diggs and Kelsey already. You have a combination that has an elite level ceiling that not many people have access to. Then you get Keenan Allen in the 3rd, Hollywood in the 4th, Godwin in the 5th, Amari, Clyde-Edwards-Helaire, and Kareem Hunt. I am so jealous of that. I hope that you were able to get Watson a little bit later on at a value to get the double stack there with Amari Cooper and Kareem Hunt. But that is a beautiful draft. And Nathan says, I am back, baby. Happy to see you. Still going strong. I'm ready to win some leagues with your daily advice. Got into my first Dynasty league this year, so hoping you get some vids out for early picks. Yes, sir. We actually have a Dynasty Fantasy Football channel that we post every single day during the offseason. If we don't post on this one, we are posting on that one. Just look up Dynasty Flock. In my opinion, I can't come out here and say, oh, I'm the smartest fantasy football player in the world. When it comes to Dynasty Fantasy Football, I am very confident that you are not going to find someone on YouTube putting out consistent content as we are with as much Dynasty experience as me in as many different Dynasty formats as I have. I started out as a Dynasty fantasy football person, started playing Dynasty back in 2014. Love me some Dynasty. Okay. Dog says, wait, Mason, why did you not take Javonte Williams? Why did you not take Nick Chubb over Javonte Williams? We talked about this where I do prefer Nick Chubb in a vacuum, but we do have to consider the aspect of the tournament setting in this format. And if you're looking at Nick Chubb as an ADP of 25 and Javonte Williams at an ADP of 22, we have to ask ourselves, what trio out of the 200,000 drafts that you're going to see in this contest is going to be more prevalent? Are you going to have the trio of Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, and Nick Chubb more often, or Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, and Javonte Williams? I think the amount of teams that are able to have CMC, Tyreek Hill, and Javonte Williams on the same roster, very minimal. I do not think there are going to be many teams at all when you have Tyreek Hill usually going at either pick 20 or 21, Christian McCaffrey going at about pick 2, and then Javonte Williams also as a 2nd round selection. So we had the opportunity to build a unique start to this team. And at the same time, Javonte Williams and Nick Chubb, they are in a similar tier to me. So even if I prefer Nick Chubb ever so slightly in a vacuum, it made sense for the unique roster construction that we were able to have from it. Okay. But Zachary coming out says, are we getting another draft after this one? Yes, sir. We'll fire up another draft after this. I was going to say, oh, if we hit 600 likes in the live stream, we'll get another draft. No, thank you for all the support that you have had. I'll be happy to get another draft going after this one. D-Lars says, are you going to be doing any sleeper redraft mocks? Draft board can be a little bit different in a regular PPR redraft compared to a best ball. Just wondering. No, thank you, of course, for the question. I've answered this question a ton. Personally, no, just because I want to be able to get excited for these drafts every single night. And what gets me excited is having real money on the line. Like, I love drafting these puppy drafts just because I am dreaming that 6 months from now, I win this puppy draft. Say, I win the contest. I win $200,000, or I win Best Ball Mania. I win $2 million. And of course, the money would be really nice, but it would also be so nice and it would be legendary for me to be able to do that on the live stream, have that content. And it's so fun to go through and just have drafts with real money on the line where nobody's leaving the mock draft halfway through. I do think Underdog's the best practice for people for their 2022 drafts because every draft is real money, so people aren't leaving halfway through. And at the same time, it's more exciting and it's more fun for me if I'm going to do these drafts 4 or 5 every single night. Okay, so I think we kind of called this. I think that we were going to get Dak Prescott here at the end of the 8th round. Just having we have 2 quarterbacks in this team, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. It's going to be a team where we go 2-5-9-2. I'm almost certain of it. We can't draft another quarterback. We can't draft another tight end. Okay, this is going to be an exciting draft. Let's see if we can find a way to work this out. Hopefully we get Matthew Stafford, Dallas Goedert off the board here at the turn. This team already has 5 wide receivers. Wonder if they would want to go Russell Gage. This has been a team that's been queuing up their selections and then just leaving the draft room. So let's see what they decide to do. They go Tyler Boyd, 96. Interesting. This is a team that reaches 7 picks on Kadarius Toney, reaches on Juju Smith-Schuster, reaches on Brandon Cooks, and now they go ahead and they take James Cook as well. Very interesting selections. I guess the reason they reached on Tyler Boyd there is because they have Joe Burrow. But my argument would be if you have to reach on Tyler Boyd this much and you have to give up some potential value here, might as well not take Joe Burrow in the 7th round. Alexander says, how do I join the next draft? Thank you for asking. Thank you for allowing me to repeat myself and annoy everybody for the millionth time. But all you have to do is go to the link in the live stream, the link in the description of the video. Make sure that you have an account signed up with Underdog Fantasy. When you sign up, use promo code FLOCK and they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And with promo code FLOCK, you will get our 2022 rankings and our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. Now, after that, when you already have your account signed up, after we end a draft, I will go in to the public lobby if we are going to do a puppy draft like we are doing now, and I will join, and you just join us the same time as me. If not, like what we've done over the past 2 weeks when we're not doing a puppy draft, if we're going to do a private draft, I will send out a separate link in the live stream, and I'll say $10 draft here, or $5 draft here, or $20 draft here, whatever it may be, but that will be labeled in the stream. So after we take Russell Gage at pick 99, Garrett Wilson 100, Tyler Lockett 101, Robert Woods 103. I don't love Russell Gage here, but you have to go wide receiver. We look at this draft board, you look at the texture of it, and the running backs that are going to be available to us on the way back around in the 10th, 11th round. If we pass on wide receiver, we're just going to be missing out on so many top-level players. Coming out with a donation. Super happy to see you out here, my man. Have not seen you in quite a while. It says 20 team. I forgot that you play in this crazy format. 20-team league, PPR, 3 keepers, start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex spot. I'm keeping Najee Harris and Justin Jefferson in a 20-team format. I'd say it's probably a pretty good combination of players to be keeping. Should I be keeping Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, or maybe even Melvin Gordon to have a halfway safe running back too? Running back gets bare very quickly, missed the playoffs with 6 losses last season. Yeah, I 100% see how running back would thin out like that in a 20-team format. I mean, if you just go through and do a supply and demand ratio of the running back position, guys like Nyheim Hines are going to be started during the bye weeks. Like, it's going to get ugly real quick. But the opportunity cost that you would be passing up to let go of a wide receiver like a Chris Godwin, who, while healthy, could be a top 12 wide receiver on a points per game basis this season, in a 20-team format where we truly do need to be looking for the highest ceiling possible because, like you said, you only had 6 losses last year and still missed the playoffs. I would go with that elite level ceiling. I would instead decide to keep Chris Godwin and keep the combination of Najee Harris, Justin Jefferson, and Godwin. Wishing the best of luck to you. Hopefully you pull an early round draft pick. Hopefully you're able to get Breece Hall at the start of your draft and fix that running back room because that's going to be very scary. But I'd imagine a lot of people in that draft are in the same boat. D. Larso says, haven't been here in a while this offseason. Super busy. I'll be hopping on the drafts over the next couple of weeks. Got to the semis last year in Best Ball Mania. Hyped. Thank you, of course, for being with the flock for a very long time. And I'm hoping I have a similar story. What I'm hoping for is with Best Ball Mania, of course, it's a crazy prize pool. Like Best Ball Mania, has a $10 million prize pool this year? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a $5 million. I don't know. It's ridiculous. The probabilities that you actually get to the finals are so slim that I've already come, I don't want to say to the realization, to the conclusion. I don't know how to say it. But if I make it to the finals, I'll be happy with myself. If I can make it to the finals and then go on a live stream and stream for y'all in week 17 and we can all sweat out the potential win of $2 million. Oh, that would be so exciting. And also, if you signed up for Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK and drafted in Best Ball Mania, and you make it to the finals where you could win $2 million, you have to send me an email. You have to send me a DM. You have to do something because we will live stream together. We will watch the games together. We'll live stream it on this channel because I feel like that would be so much fun. Would it not? We all sweat out $2 million on the line. Maybe I can't get there, but if one of y'all does, we will. Jason says dinner on Flock if he wins. If I win Best Ball Mania, guys, I will throw a Flock meetup and I will have us a raging party. Like, we will have a celebration together. If I win Best Ball Mania, or if you win Best Ball Mania, you better be throwing the Flock meetup. If you get $2 million on Underdog, you better be throwing the Flock meetup, and it better be a hell of a time. Okay. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Cordell Patterson. On the way back around, we are going to... Never mind. I was going to say on the way back around, we're going to hope that we get Isaiah Spiller. Obviously, we wanted Isaiah Spiller to pair up with Justin Herbert. I feel like for us to reach on Spiller over Cordell Patterson for the stack, we'd be losing out on so much potential upside that we may have from that stack. So let's hope that we get Joshua Palmer on the way back around in the 12th. What sucks is maybe we made the wrong choice in deciding to go Dalton Schultz, where now we probably can't even take Gerald Everett later on. Worst case scenario, we go Jalen Guyton in the very last round. But we really are hoping that we get Joshua Palmer. Okay, so Nate Dogg goes Mecole Hardman. Good. I wanted Christian Watson. Christian Watson was our guy. I really draft Mecole Hardman a ton in round 11. But the reason I'm drafting a lot of round 11 Mecole Hardman is simply because I'm drafting even more Patrick Mahomes in the 5th round. So it's just like I kind of have to draft him there in a lot of these drafts. But I do prefer Christian Watson in a vacuum. I know that, of course, I am on an island here when you have Christian Watson going 50 picks behind Allen Lazard. But I am not going to be too surprised if Christian Watson outscores Allen Lazard this season. Now, I definitely will admit it's less likely now that we have the injury to Christian Watson. Now that Christian Watson is missing a valuable training camp reps with Aaron Rodgers, it's not great. I just don't think Allen Lazard's talented. I don't. D. Larso says, yes, sir, missed the finals last year by literally 3.5 points. Oh, that is brutal, my man. And I will bore you with this story. I'll bore everybody here with this story from last year. And I know y'all have all heard it before, and I know it doesn't matter. I'm just sitting here crying on my soapbox, but it was a big dog draft. Those are the $250 drafts on Underdog Fantasy. It was $100,000 to first, and the final in that one wasn't massive. The final was like 12 people. So if you get into the final, you had a good shot, or I'll finish there. You had an okay shot to win the $100,000 for first, to win like the $50,000 for second, and so on. We were in the semifinals, and we had to get first out of a player pool of 8 teams. We were in second. The last game of the week was the Kansas City Chiefs. The guy that was in first had no players left. I had Travis Kelce, and we were down by about 4 or 5 points. The only tight ends I drafted on this team were Travis Kelce and Irv Smith Jr. before he went down for the year. So I was either going to get a 0 at tight end if Travis Kelce did not play, and I would not get to the final. Or if Travis Kelce played, Kelce's getting 5 points 100% of the time. So if Kelce cleared the COVID list, which they did not put him on the COVID list technically because they wanted to see if he could clear it by Monday night, then we would be in the final. If he did not clear it, boo-hoo, we get 0 points at tight end, and we don't make it. Well, he did not clear it, and what hurts most of all is on that team, we had Jamar Chase. And the very next week, during the final, which would have only had 12 teams in it, Jamar Chase dropped 50 fantasy points. Brutal. It was brutal. I will probably bore you with that story over and over and over again because Kelce clears the COVID list. We win $100,000. It would have been beautiful. We still won a couple thousand. Like it wasn't the worst thing in the world. We still did turn a profit, but it would have been significantly better. Jim Range says that would have ruined my year. We had a pretty good year overall. Like if everything was hinging on that, it definitely would have ruined my year. But I mean, it's out of my hands. It's like I said, woulda, coulda, shoulda. It doesn't matter at all if it didn't happen. So now at pick 142, it sucks. Joshua Palmer goes before us. So now all of a sudden we are going to have no Justin Herbert stack. Not going to be in the end of the world whenever we get Herbert at a value. We can get Jalen Guyton in the last round. So worst case scenario. We still have Guyton. Here we cannot take a tight end or a quarterback. Let me remind everyone, we have Herbert and Dak Prescott. We have Darren Waller and Dalton Schultz. So we are pretty locked in to only drafting 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends with this build. We can take 2 more running backs. We can take, we need to take 5 more wide receivers. At wide receiver, we only have Tyreek Hill, Elijah Moore, Russell Gage, and Christian Watson. Now that Jarvis Landry's off the board, let's think through this quickly. I actually kind of like the idea of going ahead and taking Jameson Williams here. We clearly see a tier drop off after Jameson Williams at the wide receiver position down to Van Jefferson. And at the same time, we have Russell Gage here. So if you're looking at Russell Gage as someone that should score the majority of his points in weeks, say 1, 2, 3, and 4, with the potential Chris Godwin injury making him miss that stretch, Jameson Williams is going this late in these drafts because he himself is going to miss weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4. So maybe we can overlap the lack of production that we are getting from Jameson Williams with the boosted production from a Russell Gage during that time. But yeah, let's take Jameson Williams here. Probably going to end up with a running back on the way back around. But I don't want to lock anything in if we like a value that we have. I like this team still overall. I think we have access to upside at every single position. I think we have an elite quarterback locked in, an elite tight end locked in, and I think we can get there at running back and receiver. Daniel Jones goes 144. Great for us. Let's get Gesicki off the board now to Nate Dogg. If I'm taking Tua Tagovailoa at 143, I'm probably taking Mike Gesicki as my second tight end at 146 to get the stack in at a value as well. Now, this Tristan team only has 3 running backs. Their 3 running backs are Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, and Rachaad White. So it does look like they really like themselves the passing down RBs with the combination of Cook and White. Possibly they decide to go Nyheim Hines here and pair up Nyheim Hines with Jonathan Taylor. They go Gesicki instead. I'm assuming sniping Nate Dogg, and that Nate Dogg was the team to draft to draft Tua Tagovailoa here at the turn. And they don't have Waddle. They don't have Tua. They do have Chase Edmonds, so I guess you're getting in correlation that way. And you also have a fine price point on Tua Tagovailoa. So Nate Dogg, what are you doing here, big fella? They go Tyler Algier. If we had not had our quarterbacks locked in, I'd probably go ahead and I'd probably take Michael Carter Jr. And then we have the double stack with Elijah Moore and Michael Carter Jr. and potentially target Zach Wilson later on. However, in this draft, we can't take another quarterback. So maybe we just take a falling player in a Nyheim Hines. I don't love Nyheim Hines in a regular fantasy football format, given the fact that you'll never be able to project whenever he does go out there and whenever he does see the random spike week of 6 targets for 4 receptions, 60 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. But in a best ball format, we don't need to be able to project that game. It's just automatically going to slide into our starting lineup. So I think this is the format, and this is about the price where you should feel comfortable and where I personally feel comfortable going ahead and drafting Nyheim Hines. But let me know what y'all are thinking on that one. Let's scroll this down for everybody. We have Michael Carter Jr. going off the board at pick 150. I think we could still draft another running back. Of course, we've gone pretty running back heavy. Actually, no, we've only had 4 of these guys. I apologize. I thought that was our 5th RB. So we can definitely still, we need to draft one more. 100% we have to draft another running back. And I think we could potentially draft 2 more, depending on the wide receiver versus running back value that we have later on. Okay, we are about to pass 550 likes in the live stream. Of course, thank you so much for everybody going down there, dropping a like. I will fire up another draft for y'all after this one. I think this is our 3rd or 4th draft? Fantasy File says another draft after question mark. Yeah, usually we say if we get 600 likes in the live stream, we'll get another draft going. But no, thank you for all the support. Just thank you for being a part of the flock. I'm enjoying these drafts. I'm happy that the puppy is nice and open for us. So I'll be happy to go ahead and give this draft for you right away. Now we have David Njoku going pick 155. I think David Njoku is 100% going to be a player that continues to rise in ADP. I'm interested to know why this team that decided to go DeShaun Watson at pick 130 wouldn't just take David Njoku there at pick 154. Maybe they really needed a wide receiver. Based on the little colors up there at the top, I doubt it. Yeah, this team had Devontae Adams, Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Christian Kirk, Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson, Nico Collins. I mean, your only tight end is Zach Ertz. I think I would definitely prefer taking David Njoku there over Nico Collins if you took DeShaun Watson in round 11. Okay, we have a question. Would you take Jamar Chase with the 5th pick? If not, who else? Yes, I'm going to take Jamar Chase at 5. Unless you're playing in a league where you can only start, say, 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, so you can only start up to 3 receivers, there the wide receiver position is going to be devalued overall, and there instead I think you can go with your favorite running back. Possibly that's an Austin Eckler if it's a PPR format, a Derrick Henry if it's a non-PPR format, but that's going to be a very specific league. I think the majority of leagues that people are going to be playing in are going to be those start 2 wide receivers, start 2 flex spots. Underdog's going to be a little bit different in that you have to start 3 wide receivers and you have 1 flex. But assuming that you can start up to 4 wide receivers, yes, you have to take Jamar Chase at 5. Okay, so Jamison Crowder goes 161. Hopefully we get these quarterbacks and tight ends off. Looks like 3 teams before us only have 1 quarterback. Winston has fallen about 10 picks past his ADP. George Pickens goes. It's not good for us. I would feel more excited about grabbing a wide receiver with this pick. But at the same time, like, what wide receiver would we even want? The Zanks on the clock. They only have Derek Carr at receiver. They don't have anybody from the New Orleans Saints. They don't have Michael Pittman. So they go Tyler Higbee. Fine. We're happy with these tight ends going off. I mean, if Albert O goes off with this pick, and then the following pick we get Gerald Everett, I'm ecstatic. Yeah, Gerald Everett off the board. Of course, it'd be nice stacking up Gerald Everett with Justin Herbert, but with us taking Dalton Schultz in the 7th round, we didn't allow that to happen. So instead of taking Keel Herbert here, who's the best player available according to ADP based on the players we can draft, I'm not a massive Herbert fan. I think also we should go ahead. We should try to find some production at the beginning portion of the season when 2 of our main receivers are going to be rookies with Christian Watson and Jameson Williams, obviously both dealing with their own respective injuries. I expect Christian Watson to be good to go by the beginning of the season. I think it's almost guaranteed. And Jameson Williams should miss the beginning part of the year, but regardless, both wide receivers should start slow. So Jameis Winston off the board, 167. Great for us, but now it looks like there's no shot we get more quarterbacks drafted. Actually, this team has Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones. You could go with the 3rd quarterback there. Interesting to see Nate Dogg decide to go Jameis Winston. He already had Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, and bringing in a 3rd guy does feel like a little bit of overkill. I maybe go Noah Fant there and see if Winston comes back to us. Herbert goes at 168, so he is no longer going to be in play. I actually like the idea of taking Corey Davis, having some correlation with that New York Jets passing offense, bringing in another capable receiver. And if we pass on a running back here, I think we could potentially go ahead and draft 6 RBs. We're going to take whoever falls between Corey Davis and Jamal Williams. If both fall, we're going to go Corey Davis over Jamal. Jordan says Jameson Williams or Garrett Wilson in Dynasty. That's a really tough question because you're looking at Garrett Wilson and Jameson Williams as 2 wide receivers that were never on the same team. And it's not like, I mean, you had one of the receivers dominating the other one, forcing him to transfer, and then being drafted higher in the NFL draft. And at the same time, not having an injury he's coming off of. So it's a really tough question because, I mean, if both wide receivers played on the same collegiate offense and one was clearly the wide receiver 1 over the other, and that same player is healthy while the other one's injured, and that same player went ahead in the NFL draft of that other guy, I mean, it would be very tough if that was the situation. Of course you go Garrett Wilson. Come on, what are we talking about? Go Garrett Wilson over Jameson Williams. Now, we're going to go Corey Davis, 171, and let's go ahead. And you know what? I'm just going to fire up another draft. We can finish this draft off on our phone. Let's fire up another puppy draft. We are in here. There are 5 spots open if anybody wants to get in here with us. Okay, so it looks like that is filled now. Okay, we get the 104. I love top 5 picks. I honestly kind of like 3, 4, and 5 even more than 1 and 2. I really like starting with a guy like Justin Jefferson or Cooper Kupp. We'll take whoever falls to us here. Hell, in our $500 draft, we ended up getting Christian McCaffrey at pick 4, so I think that's going to be fine as well. We're drafting right next to Brody. I don't exactly know why I was saying their name. I know they are part of the flock. FSU for Cole. We are in drafts with them all the time, whether it's in the public lobby, whether it's on this live stream. I don't know if they are a member of the flock or if they are just a straight up grinder. If they didn't have the red experience badge next to them, I'd say, oh, they're definitely a member of the flock because we're always drafting with them. They're always in here. But because they have the red experience badge, I'm thinking maybe they're just always drafting on Underdog. Leslie says, how do you enter a draft? Thank you so much for asking and giving me the opportunity to tell you. If you want to get into a draft with us, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Link is going to be in the description. Link is in the live chat. Link is in the comment section. We do this every single night. I'm going to do 4 or 5 drafts every single night until the season kicks off. So you have hundreds of opportunities to draft with us. And if you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK when you sign up, they are going to match your first deposit $1 for $1 up to $100. You are going to get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, and a 100% deposit match. Find the link in the description. And once you have your Underdog account created, you can, of course, just go draft in the public lobby if you want, or you can wait until we're live streaming. And if I'm creating a private draft, I'll send an exclusive link out in the live chat and I'll say $10 draft here or $20 draft here, whatever we decide to do. Or if we're going to join like a public draft, like we just did the puppy draft, then you'll just have to join the same time as me. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Christian McCaffrey at pick 4. I mean, I thought we were going to go wide receiver. We were talking about the fact that I love the Cooper Kupp. I love the Justin Jefferson starts. Didn't we start Christian McCaffrey at 3 in the last one? Let me pull up our last draft. I think we did. Yeah, we got Christian McCaffrey at pick 3 in the last one. We went Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, and then Javonte Williams. Usually when you take Christian McCaffrey, I'm not going to be too surprised if we get Tyreek Hill at pick 21 again. But we'll figure it out. In the other draft, just to keep you informed, I'm probably about to take Brian Robinson or Gene McKissick. Dalvin Cook. Joe Mixon goes at 9. So you're going to get one player falling really far down past his ADP here. You have Najee. Actually, no, not that far. Never mind. I guess Dalvin Cook falling to 10 doesn't happen too often. But, you know, I'm not going to fault anybody for taking Joe Mixon that early. Curvat says the league was a great show. 100%. The league was a dumb show, obviously. I know everybody's favorite character was Taco. I didn't like Taco at all. I didn't think it was funny. But, like, some of the characters on there, like Andre and Rafi, like, some of the funniest TV characters of all time. Like, I've seen the league 2 or 3 times, but, I mean, I haven't seen it in years and years and years. So I can't remember the main guy's name. He wasn't that funny, but everybody else. Like, I stand by the fact that I think Rafi from the league is probably the funniest TV character ever invented, regardless of TV show. Aleem says, Mason, got your draft guide today, and it's been a great read so far. My only feedback is I wish the names and the table of contents were clickable to take you directly to the player profile. Yes, sir. That's going to be something we'll definitely have next year. We have to build up that capacity. What I will say is you can just hit Control F, find it like that. That's personally what I do if I need to go through, find any statistics, look at a player profile instantly. It's not as easy as just clicking the player's name, but Control F searching. But thank you so much for the positive feedback. We've had so much positive feedback on that draft guide so far. Okay, so Deebo Samuel goes 17. Deebo Samuel sneaking his way up. DeAndre Swift falling here. So yeah, this is the start we thought we were going to have. We were going to go with Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey. The same exact start that we had in the last one. Hopefully we don't have Javonte Williams making it to us. I doubt it happens. Like here, this is why we decided to go Javonte over Chubb in the last draft, because Javonte Williams is best player available according to ADP. The odds that he falls like 6 picks here. Ooh, wait 1 second. Yeah, we had to make another draft pick quick in that other league. But the odds that Javonte Williams falls to us in round 3, not going to be very high. I mean, I think we're going to a lot more likely to get a Nick Chubb in this draft. Aleem says, I just got the draft guide by signing up for Underdog and deposited. Thank you, my man, of course. so much. Scary Hour says, I used code FLOCK last year on Underdog. Where can I buy the draft guide this year? The draft guide, if you've already used promo code FLOCK, is available on flockfantasy.com. I'll send the link out in the live chat. If you have not signed up for Underdog Fantasy, I definitely recommend just signing up for Underdog Fantasy, using promo code FLOCK and making a $10 deposit, getting the draft guide that way, because it's going to be literally just cheaper than getting it off the website. The draft guide's more than $10 on the website. And at the same time, that $10 is doubled to $20 that you're able to use in fantasy football drafts. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's take Alvin Kamara here. I don't see the appeal in drafting a Michael Pittman Jr. or a Mike Williams at this price tag. I don't. I'm not going to be doing it at all. And then that other draft, just to keep you informed, we took Brian Robinson Jr. and then Curtis Samuel as our 8th wide receiver, even with the Curtis Samuel injury. But let me go ahead, queue up some players real quick. And then we should not have to look at this draft anymore. Yeah, just make sure we have Jalen Guyton queued up. Probably need Jalen Guyton on that Justin Herbert team. Okay, so after we take Alvin Kamara, you'd have Michael Pittman, DJ Moore. Mike Williams falls all the way to pick 33. Not very often are you seeing Mike Williams fall that far on Underdog. I personally think he should be going closer to that range. I haven't been a massive fan of drafting him at his ADP. As you just saw, he was best player available, or maybe Michael Pittman Jr. was. They go neck and neck. We decided to take Alvin Kamara instead. So if I look up how many drafts I've actually taken Mike Williams in, I have Mike Williams, I'm going to guess 4% of drafts. Let's guess 4%. Mike Williams. No, I was wrong. Guess the percentage of drafts I have Mike Williams in. Keep in mind, he usually doesn't fall to 33. Keep in mind, Mike Williams usually goes before Alvin Kamara, before DJ Moore, before James Conner, before Kyle Pitts. Josh Allen falls all the way to 35 here. But usually Mike Williams goes significantly before this. I've done over 400 drafts this offseason. Take a guess on the percentage of drafts I have him in. Yeah, Nick, Mr. Hackman already got it. We have Mike Williams in 2% of drafts. I never take Mike Williams. I understand. Yes, Keenan Allen has seen a dip with his efficiency. Yes, I understand that Mike Williams, former top 10 pick, had a decent profile, was the wide receiver 2 through the first 5 weeks, only behind Cooper Kupp. But if we take a step back, if we look at over the past 3 seasons and compare Mike Williams to Keenan Allen, I think Keenan Allen is by far and away the wide receiver 1 there still. I think it's not up for debate. I know some people have been ranking Mike Williams over Keenan. Keenan goes ahead of Mike Williams here, but that doesn't happen in every draft. I don't think this is like a toss-up to be the wide receiver 1. I'm pretty confident in saying if you look at the target share over the past 3 years, despite the age, despite the trends, you still have Keenan Allen as the wide receiver 1. And someone please take Courtland Sutton. Oh, Darren Waller. Take Courtland Sutton. Get Sutton off the board. Thank God. We're going to go ahead. We're going to be able to get Cam Akers. Now, we are going with a very running back heavy approach. But I mean, if we're looking at wide receivers that are currently available, it's going to be such a flat tier. Like if we're looking at the wide receivers like Jerry Jeudy here, compared to the guys that we're going to have available to us at the 6-7 turn, like Jerry Jeudy versus Elijah Moore, I think the tier drop off that you're going to see there is going to be significantly less than what we're going to have at running back, than what we're going to have at quarterback. That's why those receivers that we are getting at the end of round 4, and even really all in round 4 outside of Deontay Johnson, and maybe even a Terry McLaurin, I tend to pass on those guys in favor of elite level quarterbacks and in favor of someone like Cam Akers. But you have Kyler Murray at pick 47. Good for us. We're not interested in Kyler here. I'm probably interested in grabbing an elite level quarterback, but that's probably going to be Patrick Mahomes unless he goes here at pick 49 because Chris Godwin goes 48. Paul says, I have 0 Sutton or Jeudy. I have 0 Sutton. I definitely don't have a ton of Jerry Jeudy, but I have been drafting him some. I have Jerry Jeudy in 4% of these drafts. I have a decent amount of KJ Hamler, a decent amount of Tim Patrick. I have Melvin Gordon. I have Albert O. I have some Russell Wilson. But I agree with you. Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. I don't think the target share is going to be similar to what you had in Seattle for Russell Wilson's receivers. I think it's going to be a lot more dispersed. Okay. But let's see what happens. Gabriel Davis off the board. In a vacuum, I actually do prefer George Kittle over Allen Robinson. But if we're just looking at this from a tournament style contest, I think the amount of teams that are going to be able to pair up Allen Robinson and Cam Akers on the same roster, given how their ADP breaks down, they're going to be minimal. And at the same time, we could get that correlation in here with the Los Angeles Rams offense and potentially draft Matthew Stafford later on. So if this was just a regular 12-team fantasy football draft, I'm going to go George Kittle here. But with the context of the contest, I think there we probably have to break the tie in the favor of the wide receiver that has a significantly higher ADP, especially knowing that there are going to be a lot of wide receivers off the board after this. Leslie says, in your next public draft, will it be the Puppy 3? Just making sure. Yeah, so we're probably going to do public drafts on the live stream over the next week. Like I said, so if we go and look at Underdog Fantasy real quick, let me do this because Underdog launched the Puppy 3 contest, like 10 hours ago at this point? About 10 hours ago. And if you look at, in the span of 10 hours, they have had 22,000 entrants. And you could just see this number going up and up and up. So this contest is probably going to fill in about a week. So we're going to do these drafts while we can. And then we'll get back to doing the private drafts after that. Okay, so we have David Montgomery falling all the way to pick 58. Love that pick with David Montgomery. I probably even prefer Allen Robinson over Montgomery in a vacuum. It's just in the context of this draft, we can't do that. Harris says, can you do a Dynasty draft soon? Yeah, on the Dynasty channel, I'll get a Dynasty startup mock draft going if y'all would like. But we just passed 600 likes on the live stream. We officially have more likes on the live stream than we have live viewers. So thank you guys for showing your support. I appreciate y'all. And yeah, I'm excited. How many drafts have we done so far? How long have we been live? We've been live for almost 2.5 hours. I think this is our 5th draft. Aleem says, I signed up for Underdog last night and I've already done like 10 drafts. Yeah, there's a reason we do these drafts so often on live stream. They're just so fun. Like when the season comes around, I'll be able to occupy my time on the live stream. Like we'll be able to do Q&A live streams every single night. But in terms of like off the live stream, like when I'm at the gym and stuff, I don't get on social media. I don't really even have social media. The only thing I'll have a Twitter and like an Instagram just so I can post things for y'all, but I don't follow anybody because I don't want to be on that. So all I do is I just draft. I'm in a fantasy football draft nonstop. So when the season comes around, it's going to be a hard adjustment for me to not be able to just fire these drafts up constantly. Okay, so looks like we have some running backs falling here. I would be excited to get a running back like J.K. Dobbins, like Josh Jacobs at pick 69. Now, of course, we don't need it. We have Christian McCaffrey, we have Alvin Kamara, we have Cam Akers, but still, I like Dobbins. I like Jacobs, especially at this price point. But the team right before us, Brody, does not have a running back yet. If I were them, I would go ahead. I would take Jacobs here. I wouldn't even think twice about it. That's exactly what they do. We're going to take Elijah Moore. This is why we passed on Jerry Jeudy at the end of the 4th round in favor of someone like Cam Akers. I think that if you're looking at this tier of receivers, it should fall off after Drake London. I don't believe Allen Lazard is in this same caliber of player. So let's go ahead. Let's queue up how we would like this draft to go for us. I think this is how we want it. Worst case scenario, and I repeat, absolute worst case scenario, this doesn't happen. Pick 76, we'd probably go ahead and we'd probably take Joe Burrow. And then look to grab Tyler Boyd later on. But it looks like this team right next to us is punting the running back position, going with the 0 RB approach. They have 6 picks in with Jefferson, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Gabriel Davis, and DeAndre Hopkins. I'd imagine that we don't even get the opportunity to draft Burrow because Burrow is probably going to be off the board to them at pick 75 if we're looking at the fact that they took T. Higgins at the end of the 2nd. What am I wanting? Drake London off the board at 72. So thank God we ended up taking our 3rd wide receiver with Elijah Moore. So I think the receivers that are going to be available to us here outside of Devontae Smith probably going to be gross. Okay. Smith is the player highest in our queue. After that, Dalton Schultz. After that, Gibson, Joe Burrow. Dalton Schultz off the board. Yeah, he was the highest player according to ADP. Burrow off as we were expecting. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Devontae Smith. I mean, if we're looking at how teams are valuing a wide receiver in this draft, These wide receivers are being pushed up across the board. So if we're ever able to get a wide receiver about 6 picks past his ADP in this draft in particular, I think that we're going to have to go ahead. I think we're going to have to do it. Of course, I'm not as excited about drafting Devonta Smith on a team where we don't have Jalen Hurts. I think it would be a lot better if we would have had Jalen Hurts falling to us at pick 69, but Hurts went as early as pick 60 here. So can't cry about it. I think we want a wide receiver. At this point, obviously, we were behind the 8 ball at both quarterback as well as tight end. So we'll be chasing value there. I think we have to draft 3 tight ends once you miss out on the tier of Dalton Schultz, unless we potentially say get a TJ Hawkinson, then Irv Smith Jr., 30 picks, passes ADP like we did like 4 drafts ago on the live stream. But you cannot rely on that. Let's scroll this down. TJ Hawkinson does go up pick 82. I've been taking a lot of Hawkinson in the 8th round. Like, let me see how much TJ Hawkinson I've had at this point, because I felt like we were not taking too much TJ Hawkinson previously. Okay. But I have 10% Hawkinson. I thought I had more. Taking him in our $1,000 draft is definitely going to skew if you're looking at our entry fees, just because $1,000 draft obviously is worth 200 of these puppy drafts. Isaiah says, I got you, bro. Clyde, next pick. Where's Clyde Edwards-Helaire going? Chris Olave, 85. Is CH still available? Yeah, CH making it into the 8th round. This is what you saw literally all last week. I was getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the end of the 8th round last week. Okay, at this point, Brady is available. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is available. If Tom Brady were to fall, we can go ahead and we can take Tom Brady. Hope that we get Russell Gage on the way back around. If that doesn't happen, we can look at Julio Jones. Dak Prescott, it would be hard to stack up later on. So Dak off the board at 87, going to be fine for us. Tom Brady goes 88. Rashad Penny's not someone I'm interested in. I think with Rashad Penny, the majority of his production should come front-loaded through the first month of the season. It seems to take Stafford at 89, and don't necessarily see the reasoning and why they're taking Stafford 8 picks ahead of his ADP if they don't have Kupp, A-Rob, or Akers. But it is what it is. We're not going to cry about it. We're just going to move on and take some of the wide receiver value that falls. Yeah, Penny and Damian Harris are 2 guys that I'm just not drafting at all at this price. Like, I easily prefer Chase Edmonds and Kareem Hunt over them. Okay, so once Ayuk is off the board, I think we're a lot more inclined to go ahead and take a running back here. I'm fine with Marcus Valdes-Scantling in the 8th. I've taken a lot of MVS in the 8th, but in the majority of those drafts that I am taking him, we are taking him on teams where we took Patrick Mahomes in the 5th. I almost just drafted him talking about him. Instead, let's go ahead. Let's take Kareem Hunt. I think if you're looking at Kareem Hunt as the passing down running back in a DeShaun Watson-led offense that should be more efficient and more productive overall this upcoming season, I think we should expect that his ADP rises. Remember, this was a running back that was going in the 6th round last year. Really, and nothing has changed about his role. So let's take Hunt. I would have been excited to get Chase Edmonds making it back to us at pick 100. I think Edmonds and Kareem Hunt are pretty much a toss-up. I would have preferred Edmonds before the DeShaun Watson suspension news. After this, I'm not a fan of Damian Harris or Ramondre Stevenson at this price. I don't like either running back here. Lockett goes 97. Blind Squirrel on the clock. They have been sticking to ADP pretty consistent. James Cook goes 99. Do we take pick 100 Gage? Gage or now we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Dallas Goedert. We have Devonta Smith. Maybe we're getting some correlation in here with this Philadelphia Eagles offense. If we're going to go ahead, if we are going to look at the efficiency that we have had from Dallas Goedert on a yards per route run basis, Dallas Goedert's been elite in fantasy football over the past 3 years. Like, Dallas Goedert had a massive jump up last season. Now, the issue is, of course, there's not a lot of passing volume to go around in Philadelphia. But let me go over to my draft guide real quick, which, of course, you get our draft guide if you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy, make a $10 deposit with promo code FLOCK. But if we're looking at Dallas Goedert here, this is a tight end that had 2.6 yards per route run. 2.6 yards per route run is ridiculous. And if we look at games with and without Zach Ertz for Dallas Goedert, you've had 40 games with Zach Ertz. And in those games, you have 35 receiving yards per game for Dallas Goedert. He averages about 8.5 fantasy points per game. But in the 15 games that Dallas Goedert has not played with Zach Ertz throughout his NFL career, you have that number jumping up to 58 receiving yards per game, increasing by 23 receiving yards per game and almost 12 fantasy points per game. It's a night and day difference with and without Zach Ertz in this offense for Dallas Goedert. So I am going to be fine drafting him where he goes. I don't know if we want to say it's that great having Devonta Smith on the same team. Maybe we make the argument, oh, what happens if A.J. Brown goes down? Then all of a sudden, both Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith beat their ADP. Ethan says, will Underdog come to Canada? Yes, Underdog is in Canada. Ontario put something in law against like the DFS sites. So I think a lot of DFS sites got kicked out of Ontario. But outside of that, I mean, I drafted an Underdog team in Canada about 2 weeks ago. So let's look past this. Kenneth Walker goes 111. Russell Gage still falling. Russell Gage, this was a wide receiver before the Julio Jones signing. Yeah, he finally goes off the board to 112. That's good Russell Gage value. I will give you credit. That's good Russell Gage value. You took Tom Brady as well. Russell Gage was going in the 6th round before Julio Jones signed. It was a bad pick when Russell Gage was going there. I'll 100% say that. At this point, who do we want? Let's sit here and think on this for a second. Not interested in Cousins. Rondale Moore is nothing special. Rachaad White, Isaiah Spiller, I'm not interested in at all here. Let's go Rondale Moore, and then I think we can get a running back on the way back around. I think these guys and Ronald Jones and Alexander Mattison, I actually probably prefer Rojo and Alexander Mattison over Rachaad White and Isaiah Spiller. But Cole Hardman I'd be excited about if we had Patrick Mahomes on this team, but when we don't have Patrick Mahomes, I'm not going to feel the need to go ahead and draft Mecole Hardman. So we have Jalen Tolbert all the way up to 119 with the news that Michael Gallup's going to miss week 1 and obviously the news that you have with James Washington as well. Cole Kmet 120. I'll sit here and think of this. Corey says the team at the 109 is crazy. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's look at that team at the 109 after we make our selection here. Watson off the board 121. Maybe we could have gone ahead and taken Watson in the 11th round to pair up with Kareem Hunt if we wanted to do so. Now it's no longer an option. If we were to take another running back here, it is going to be our last running back on this team. I think this team's almost locked in, only drafting 5 RBs when we have CMC, Alvin Kamara, Cam Akers, and Kareem Hunt. Jacoby Myers off the board 122. Who's going to be available to us on the way back around? We're going to be picking at 141. 141, we're going to be looking at players like Joshua Palmer, Julio Jones, Jahan Dotson, Trevor Lawrence, Tyler Algier, Jameson Williams, Hunter Henry, Michael Carter, KJ Osborne, Kenneth Gainwell. Now that Gallup's off, do we just go with the receiver, seeing these guys get pushed up, and we only need one more running back? Yeah, let's do that. I don't like Mecole Hardman over Christian Watson if you don't have Patrick Mahomes. So let's go ahead. Let's take Christian Watson here. Okay, Randy says, are you doing another draft? Okay, I think this is our 5th draft of the live stream. Like I said, we're going to do like 4 or 5 drafts every single night on the stream until the season starts. I'm going to try to give you all as many opportunities as possible to join these drafts with us. How about this? How about this live stream hits 700 and what are we in round 11? 720 likes. We will fire up another draft after this, but y'all will have to give me some time for a bathroom break and possibly to refill my water. Okay, Derek and Chi Gobson saying this is my 4th draft. Okay, 4th draft. I'll figure it out. Broadcast says, on a scale 1 to 10, how much do you like your $500 team you drafted? Okay, let's go ahead. Let's pull that up. I mean, we got Christian McCaffrey round 1, Saquon Barkley round 2. So I really liked the team. I think that it's less exciting when we have the Robert Tonyan, the Christian Watson injury news. So our main stack there with the Green Bay Packers is going to be less appealing in general. So at quarterback, we have Rodgers, Winston, Baker. Running back, CMC, Saquon Barkley, David Montgomery, Darrell Williams, Jerick McKinnon. Tight end, Gesicki, Tunyon, Fant. Scale 1 to 10, I'll call it a 7. I don't want to say it's easily the best team in the league. I think it does have access to an elite level ceiling if CMC and Saquon Barkley were to stay healthy. Okay, so Jahan Dotson goes 133. Rachaad White falling really far. Looks like people in this draft are just not buying into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, you had Brady going at pick 88, Russell Gage 112. Rachaad White finally off the board at pick 134. I think we made the right call going with the wide receiver. Really, the only receivers that are going to be intriguing for me at pick 141, if they make it there, are going to be someone like Devontae Parker, maybe a Jameson Williams. I don't like Joshua Palmer here unless you were to take, and Jameson Williams even off the board. I think we made the right call going ahead and taking Christian Watson earlier on in the 11th. Okay, so Corey goes at the 1204. And what I will do, if we fire up another draft, I may not tell y'all exactly when I'm joining. So people watching the live stream are not drafting with me. And I may let y'all pick our strategy. Instead of being flexible and letting the board come to us, let me know if this is something y'all would want. Like, we randomly join in a draft on my phone or something when y'all aren't looking. And we go ahead and say, do a 0 RB team, or do a hyper fragile team, or do a punt tight end team. Like, y'all pick the actual strategy that we are going to implement. We try to make it work. But of course, I just can't do that on a live stream with a bunch of people watching because they'll just snipe us on it. Let me know if y'all would rather us do that if we hit 720 likes in the live stream and fire up another draft, or if y'all would rather just me do a regular thing where y'all can get in. Okay, Sean says, nah, just let us join. All right, we'll just let y'all join. Panda says, Chase or Cook, 7th pick, 10-team league. Who should I be going with in the second round? 10-team format. I mean, wide receivers are going to be devalued just because the options on the waiver wire are just going to be completely fine, that you're going to not necessarily see a massive tier drop-off as you would in a 12-team or a 14-team format. What I would say is, in a 10-team league, if you can start up to 4 wide receivers, then all of a sudden, maybe it's up to you and it's a coin flip. If you can only start 3 wide receivers, if it's start 2 receivers and 1 flex, it's going to be easily Dalvin Cook. If it starts, say, 3 wide receivers and 2 flexes, and you can start up to 5 wide receivers, then it's going to be easily Jamar Chase. So we're going to take Pat Frymuth, 141. I know Pat Frymuth, some people are concerned about him leaving practice a little bit early with a lower body injury. I think we're going to take the discount with ADP because what's going to happen is in 3 days, when all of a sudden people say, oh no, Pat Frymuth is fine, then he's going to go right back to being drafted as an 11th round pick. And then we're going to be one of the few teams in this contest that were able to get him at pick 141. Okay, now let's move this down. In terms of quarterbacks that we can be looking at later on, Kenny Pickett, we could be doing in the last round. Zach Wilson, we can have in the 15th. Tua Tagovailoa is no longer an option. Jameis Winston, we could be looking at. We would have to take Winston here, which honestly, I would be very excited about going Darrell Henderson if Henderson were to make it. We have Cam Akers. I think in a regular fantasy football league, it doesn't make sense to handcuff your running backs. But here, if you just look at how the season could play out and how you could possibly sneak a Cam Akers team through. Okay, now we don't even go down that path. Let's take Jameis Winston. I like Winston at this price point in general. I think people are discounting the New Orleans Saints offense. If you're looking at the weapons that they have with Michael Thomas, with Chris Olave, with Jarvis Landry, with Alvin Kamara, Jameis Winston led the NFL in passing yards and was second in the NFL, only behind Lamar Jackson in passing touchdowns back in 2019. Of course, different coaching staff. We don't know if they're going to let Jameis Winston be a DGAF quarterback, but we have Alvin Kamara, so I do think we're getting a nice correlation in with that New Orleans Saints passing offense. We need 3 of these guys. I think Winston can give us some random spike weeks. Okay, so it looks like we are most likely going to hit 720 likes. So I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we are back. We are good to go. Let's scroll this down, see what's happened. We had Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence going off the board at the quarterback position. Obviously, we are wanting a couple of these quarterbacks to make it back to us. We still need 3 of these guys. I think we can wait very late and just get Zach Wilson and Kenny Pickett, try to find some quarterbacks that could potentially break out that people are not expecting. Paul says, I own 0 DeAndre Swift and Javonte Williams. I don't have a ton of DeAndre Swift whenever he has an ADP going clearly ahead of Aaron Jones. But I think fading DeAndre Swift completely could be a little bit risky this season. Now we have Jared Goff going 159. So these quarterbacks growing a little bit early. How many quarterbacks did that team have? As their second guy, yeah, Dak Prescott is their first one. Why are you taking Goff there? I understand you have TJ Hawkinson and Jameson Williams, but Goff has an ADP of 192. You're taking about 159. You can easily just take about 170. Just wait a little bit. I mean, it helps us, pushes down different players that we could be potentially looking at. I think that with this team, we can go ahead. We can draft a third tight end if we want. I don't want to go ahead and reach on them here, however. Then we need to let them fall to us. In terms of Matt Ryan, on if we could draft him, we could potentially take Matt Ryan 165 if we would like, and then we could turn around and we could take Paris Campbell or Alec Pierce in the 15th round. I think Alec Pierce is still available. Yeah, Alec Pierce, ADP of 177. We'd be taking him at 172. Campbell, 175. Okay, so Tyrion Davis-Price off the board. Albert, it's okay. Never mind. DJ Chark's gone. I was going to say, we're just going to take DJ Chark. Let's take Lawrence. Let's take James Robinson, even though Lawrence is already off the board. I think James Robinson should see his value continue to rise with him dodging the PUP list. High Society says, is Jameis Winston fully healthy? Everything that I'm reading, Jameis Winston's fully healthy. I mean, Jameis Winston shed the knee brace a couple weeks ago. Like, Jameis Winston sounds like he is going to be 100% good to go this upcoming season. Braden says, yeah, I wanted to wait, but with only one quarterback, I didn't expect Goff to make it back. Goff has an ADP in the 190s. Like, if you're rolling the dice on Goff making it back to you in the 17th round, that's a little risky, but you were going to get Goff back to you in the 15th, almost guaranteed. Okay, so now Matt Ryan's gone. Let's think through this. We have Elijah Moore. We're already planning on targeting Zach Wilson a little bit later on. Let's take Corey Davis here over Marvin Jones, over Herbert. We're done taking running backs. In terms of other quarterbacks, we could potentially go Tannehill, and then in the last round or the second to last round, we could take Austin Hooper. We'll figure it out. I think we're going to have these quarterbacks falling to us. Pretty much everybody already has their guys. Himmy coming out and says, Jameis Winston threw a bomb to Chris Olave in practice. The deep passing game will be much more involved in New Orleans. Yeah, I mean, we can, of course, remember Drew Brees as one of the best NFL quarterbacks of all time. But at the same time, the last few years that we had of Drew Brees, it's not like Drew Brees had arm strength left over. Like, Drew Brees was still a good NFL quarterback based on his knowledge and how he could read NFL defenses. But we can make fun of Michael Thomas for having such a low average depth of target and only running slants. I think partially, and just partially, that may have been due to that's what suited Drew Brees at that point of his NFL career. I think this team could be a little bit more vertical with the speed that Chris Olave has and with, obviously, the arm talent Jameis Winston does. Okay, so Jamal Williams, 179, Wandale, 177, Alec Pierce off the board. At this point, we're wanting to see running backs. That'd still be fine having a tight end fall to us. Hayden Hurst goes 180. Jordan says, have you ever won one of your best ball leagues? My man, I have sadly never won a fantasy football league. I've drafted thousands and thousands of fantasy teams. I am going to be drafting probably, say, 600 teams this offseason. And I am just hoping that's one of these leagues, even though I'm obviously the worst drafter in every single draft room, I'm hoping that one of these leagues, things break right, that we get lucky in one way or another, where the fantasy football gods can bless us with our first fantasy football championship. It would be beautiful. Hopefully, one of these days. Right now, we're like 0 for 1,000 Our batting percentage is 0%. Let's get that up to 0.00001%. Okay. So now quarterbacks, like I said, Zach Wilson is clearly in line for us here. We have Elijah Moore. We have Corey Davis. Darrell Williams goes off the board to 185. Good thing for us. We're done at running back. Zach Wilson goes to a team that had Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields. I mean, I wouldn't take Zach Wilson there. Maybe they try to snipe us. It is what it is. Cost of live streaming. Okay, so now let's think through this. Tannehill, we don't have any options with. Do we take Wentz? No, I got a plan. We're going to take Tannehill, get Wentz on the way back round, Logan Thomas last round. Or, you know what? Oh, that was idiotic by me. I forgot we had Christian McCaffrey. We should have gone Baker Mayfield. That Tannehill selection was bad. I felt the pressure of the timer on. Made a bad pick. If I could go through, if I could take that back. The pick is easily Baker Mayfield. And then we follow it up with Carson Wentz in the 17th. And then get Logan Thomas in the last round. Yeah, that's a bad selection by me. There's no reason for us on this roster construction to go with Tannehill over Baker. Barber says you can take Hooper. That's what I thought. That's what I was planning on. But Austin Hooper went a little bit before this. And it looks like we just hit 720 likes on the live stream. So I'm going to take Carson Wentz and I'm going to just queue up some tight ends. And then after that, we can go ahead and, you know what? I'm just going to fire this up. Let me take Carson Wentz and then I'll queue up tight ends and I'll show y'all exactly when we join the next draft on Underdog. So some of y'all can get in here with us. Gosh, that was such... Every time I make a mistake like that in the draft, I'm just thinking, oh, Mason, you just cost yourself $200,000. You just missed it. Of course, the probability that you actually hit the $200,000 is 0.0000001%. But whenever I make a mistake like that, just something as small as taking Tannehill over Baker Mayfield where it doesn't make sense. You know what? I'm not even going to take Carson Wentz over Baker Mayfield. We have CMC. Let's take Baker. And then let's go ahead. Queue a bunch of tight ends. And here we go. We are going to be firing up this next draft on Underdog Fantasy. Of course, it's going to be a puppy draft. Puppy 3, enter. Let's see how many spots are available. There were like 2 spots available when we joined. Maybe we are in this with a couple of y'all. I don't know. Let's see if there are any names we recognize. We're at 6. Derek is there at 4. Doc is a part of the flock as well. Lenny, I think, is a part of the flock. If you are also in this draft and I'm not recognizing your name, please let me know in the live chat. I hate 6. I hate pick 6. Sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you have Jamar Chase making it to you. But it's not great. And because it's a new draft, you know I got to say this. For the one person living under a rock and the one person on planet Earth that is not drafting on Underdog Fantasy, that is not having as much fun as they could, make sure you go draft on Underdog Fantasy with me. I do this every single night on the live stream. This is our 5th draft tonight on the stream. I probably did 10 drafts this morning off the live stream because it's so much fun drafting onto Underdog. And when you go and make your first account and use promo code FLOCK, you are going to get your first deposit matched dollar for dollar up to 100 with promo code FLOCK, and you will be emailed our 2022 fantasy football draft guide and our 2022 rankings. The deposit will happen immediately. The email of our draft guide, which is almost 300 pages, which you get with literally just a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy, will take a little bit of time to get to you. It'll take about an hour or 2. If you don't see it after 2 hours, check your spam and it should be there. But you can find the link to join Underdog and draft with us in the description or the live chat. We do this every single night. You should have a ton of chances. And come on, Scooter, don't do it to us. Don't take Jamar Chase, even though you're probably going to be smart, even though you're probably going to take Jamar Chase. But take Eckler. Take Eckler. You know you want the running back who scored 20 touchdowns last year. Now, he goes Chase. We're going to go Diggs. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Stephon Diggs. I think Stephon Diggs does belong in this tier 1 of wide receivers with Kupp, Jefferson, Chase. I think he does have access to an elite level ceiling. I think we'll be able to find running back value later on. It sucks, guys. I hate pick 6. I think Eckler, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, all those running backs have red flags. If this was a league where you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex spot, you don't have to start 3 receivers. We 100% go with the running back here. We 100% go Austin Eckler. But if we can say, just get an Aaron Jones, get a DeAndre Swift fall into us, we're going to do that. Tindy says, Mac Jones will finish quarterback 1. Oh, if Mac Jones finishes quarterback 1, I will let you make a video laughing at everybody who didn't believe you, and I'll post it on the channel for you, Betty. But you got to clip this so I remember. Yeah. Guys, with that Stephon Diggs selection, I can't act like I'm excited. I can't. Like, I think it sets us up nicely to be able to go through and to be able to take Josh Allen in the 3rd round. It sets us up nicely to be able to take running back value later on, and we don't feel the need to really go out of our way and reach on some wide receivers that we don't like. But I can't act like I'm excited about taking Stephon Diggs at pick 6. Josh says, sleeping on Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has averaged a good to above average offensive line over the past 3 seasons. Derrick Henry has been in his prime over the past 3 seasons. Derrick Henry is now going to be a 28-year-old running back. We have not seen a running back finish inside the top 10 as a 28-year-old running back in like 5 years. And the Tennessee Titans are going to have the worst offensive line of Derrick Henry's career. And no A.J. Brown in Tennessee is going to make this a much less efficient passing offense overall, which is going to impact the run. There are a lot of red flags on the Derrick Henry profile. There are a lot of red flags on pretty much every top-end running back profile outside of Taylor as well as... Well, let's go ahead. Let's think through this right now. I'm just counting some stuff out. We're going to go Mark Andrews. If we reach a little bit on Andrews here after reaching a little bit on Diggs, even if I prefer Aaron Jones in a vacuum, I do think we are getting a unique start to this draft that still does have a ton of upside, specifically for weeks 15, 16, and 17. This gives us the backdoor option that if we miss Josh Allen in round 3, we're able to go ahead. We're able to take Lamar Jackson at pick 54. Like I said, I hate pick 6. Pick 6, pick 7, pick 8. They're the worst picks to have. In my opinion, by far and away, the worst slots you can have. Derek has the dream start, getting Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones in the 1st and 2nd round. My man, I'm so jealous. If we would have just pulled pick 4, if we would have pulled pick 5, pulled pick 3, any of those picks in the top 5, we would be in a completely different situation. But I like Mark Andrews. I like Stephon Diggs. I think they can respectively finish number 1 at their own position. And I think it sets us up with the ability to take running back value later on and still get our elite quarterback stacks. Okay, so T. Higgins goes 24. A.J. Brown, 25. Isaiah says, how early would you reach for rookies in a league where there's only a slot for a rookie? So I'm assuming you have to start a rookie in your starting lineup. I actually kind of like the idea of implementing that in your league. That does sound really exciting. If I would be looking at a Breece Hall in that format, you have to move Breece Hall up into that Nick Chubb tier. Breece Hall has to be someone going at like the 2-3 turn because the production over replacement that you're going to be getting with the Breece Hall compared to having to start, say, Rachaad White is going to be massive in that context. Okay. Josh Allen was our initial plan. Josh Allen was 100% the plan of this team. You take Stephon Diggs this early so you can have access to Josh Allen in the 3rd round. But speaking of unique combinations, there's going to be a small subsection of this tournament on Underdog that is able to get Javonte Williams at pick 30. And the combination of the 3 players that we just took, you may never see that on Underdog Fantasy. Unless someone decides to take like Stephon Diggs over Jamar Chase, Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, I feel like it would be very hard to get that combination. So even though our initial plan was to go ahead and take Javonte Williams, we also decided to take Andrews in the 2nd. That way we could go ahead, we could backdoor ourselves into Lamar Jackson in the 5th. And this is why we go Stephon Diggs in the 1st. Let me remind everyone, would you rather have Stephon Diggs and Javonte Williams or Mike Williams and Dalvin Cook? Would you rather have Stephon Diggs and Javonte Williams or Derrick Henry and Cortland Sutton? Personally, I'm going to go with the Stephon Diggs and Javonte Williams over Dalvin Cook and Mike Williams. So that's why I don't love it, but I have been going Stephon Diggs at 6 and 7. Now, we have a run on wide receivers happening here at the end of the third round. We have about 6 of these guys off the board in a row. Michael Pittman Jr. makes it all the way to 35. That's the latest I've seen Michael Pittman Jr. going in a while. If he went there consistently, if Michael Pittman Jr. was going at the 3-4 turn instead of at the very beginning of the third round, maybe I end up drafting Michael Pittman Jr. in some of these. My issue is just, of course, the opportunity cost that it takes to have him. Now we have Allen Robinson, 39. Allen Robinson, 39 is probably going to push some players down to us. Okay. Yeah, I think we are going to get someone at the top of this running back tier with either Ezekiel Elliott, Breece Hall, Cam Akers. I understand maybe you make the argument, Mason, you took Stephon Diggs. Let's get some correlation in here. Let's take Gabriel Davis. I'm not a Gabriel Davis guy. I would never consider Gabriel Davis here. I do really like myself some Deontay Johnson. Let's go ahead. Let's take Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, with Ezekiel Elliott, we are getting him 4 picks past his ADP. I think that the amount of teams that are going to have Ezekiel Elliott and Javonte Williams on the same roster, when you have Javonte Williams as exclusively a 2-3 turn selection and Ezekiel Elliott going at the beginning of the 4th round, gonna be few. And I don't necessarily think we're reaching on Ezekiel Elliott according to other running backs in this tier. So let's take Zeke. If we were drafting at the beginning of the 4th, where he usually goes, probably I'd prefer Breece Hall. Now, Cameron says, I just started a new job in the fantasy league. They play as a 14-team 2 quarterback and a defensive player send help. Okay, let me try to help you out with this one, my man. I love playing in Superflex formats, and they get more and more fun as you move it to a 14-team league, to a 16-team league, because if you just do some quick napkin math, we did this on a live stream the other night, but the amount of teams that are able to roster 3 starting quarterbacks in a 14-team format, oh my gosh, it is minuscule. And the teams that roster 3 starting quarterbacks are going to be taking away the ability for another team in the league to actually be able to start 2 quarterbacks in general. So if you're playing in a 14-team Superflex format, it is so much more important for you to slide those quarterbacks up than it would be in a 10-team Superflex league, than it would be in a 12-team Superflex league, because the quarterback position is the one very unique position in fantasy football where there is a hard cap. You can only start 32 guys at the position on a week-to-week basis, and that's when there are no bye weeks. If you have bye weeks stacking on and 6 teams are out of the player pool, all of a sudden you can only start 26 starting quarterbacks in a 14-team Superflex format and a 16-team Superflex format. Some of those teams aren't going to have a starter. So I really like the idea of going ahead and just taking quarterback in the 1st, taking quarterback in the 2nd. If you're only playing with one individual defensive player, then the player pool you're going to have access to is so large, and I'm assuming you're going to be able to have access to the waiver wire as well. Don't draft him until your very last pick. It doesn't matter if you're looking at Aaron Donald there. It doesn't matter who it is. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to make a pick that most people won't agree with. If we were just drafting from a median projection standpoint, I wouldn't do it, but I love the value of George Kittle in the 5th round. And at the same time, I love the ability to potentially draft a unique roster here. And I think we have possibly one of the most unique rosters with this start so far that you're going to find on Underdog Fantasy. I think we can see some random spike weeks with George Kittle. We've seen 30 points being his range of outcomes before. And if you were to have, say, a Mark Andrews injury halfway through the season, Mark Andrews, say, misses 8 weeks this year, then all of a sudden he gets back in week 13 and he's the tight end 1 overall for the final month of the season. Well, there are not going to be many teams at all in that puppy tournament contest in weeks 15, 16, and 17 with Mark Andrews, because most people wouldn't have had the production to be able to stay afloat during that time period. So when you go with the bully tight end strategy with value here in George Kittle at pick 54, in my opinion, all of a sudden you do also have the path to sneaking a player like either Kittle or Mark Andrews into that final tournament where they could go off and it could be very dynamic. Now, Juju Smith-Schuster, DK Metcalf, Darnell Mooney, Chris Godwin all off the board. Of course, Kittle's not our first plan. I would have been a lot more excited about getting either Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, but you got to do what the board gives you, and I think here Kittle's going to be the best option. Now, I got to go through and give some crap to the team at the 101. Of course, I mean, I don't have much room to talk with the roster that we have drafted so far, but I feel like if you're all in on Rashad Bateman and you're really believing that Bateman's going to have that elite level breakout this season, you got to be going through and you have to be taking Lamar Jackson and Bateman at the turn. Like, if you're going to take Bateman at pick 49, why are you not taking Lamar Jackson at 48? Personally, I'm taking Lamar Jackson at the 4 or 5 turn. I love Lamar there. I don't like Bateman there. I'm doing almost the exact opposite. But if you're a Bateman fan, I feel like you have to take Lamar there, no? Okay, but let's move this down. We have Dobbins pick 83. Joe Burrow 64. Burrow wouldn't have been in consideration for us here regardless. Maybe in the 7th round, but not at the 607. This is how I'd break down this tier for us. Our 3 best players are going to be Josh Jacobs, Elijah Mitchell, and Amari Cooper. Michael Thomas goes off the board 65. Elijah Moore 66. Spam the chat quickly. Do you want Josh Jacobs or Amari Cooper? Or you know what? We could also, or Elijah Mitchell, because we could go Elijah Mitchell here and then go Trey Lance if he makes it to us in the 7th. And then have the double stack between Elijah Mitchell and George Kittle. Okay. Looks like we're split so far with the early messages. Looks like most people are saying Josh Jacobs, so we will go ahead. We'll take Josh Jacobs. Now people are going through and saying Elijah Mitchell. There's a little bit of a lag. I think it was razor thin on who we were going to take. Josh Jacobs is one of my most drafted players on Underdog Fantasy just because I don't feel like you have to take him over wide receivers that have league-winning upside. Maybe we need to reevaluate Amari Cooper a little bit further now that we know he's going to have elite-level quarterback play through the final 11 weeks of the season. So maybe we need to reevaluate Amari, but we take Josh Jacobs here. We're only going to draft 5 running backs total on this team. Hopefully we have a value making it back to us. I mean, if we get Elijah Mitchell making it back, that would be very exciting. Okay. Yeah, I wish I would have been able to go through and ask all that a little bit earlier on. Have a better feel for what y'all were saying. And now that we see this wide receiver run happening, London off the board 71, Devonta Smith off the board at 70. If I could go back, I'd probably take Amari Cooper. Because, you know, I'm not going to be someone taking Allen Lazard here in the middle of the 7th round. That's not me. That's not who I am. I'm not taking Allen Lazard. I'm not going to be too excited about taking Kadarius Toney. We can't take Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz is completely off the board for us. So if we're breaking down how we draft this tier, Elijah Mitchell, Trey Lance, and then after that, it's just such a sharp fall off. I guess we have Javonte. I feel comfortable enough going Russell Wilson if we can. Russell Wilson off the board. We can't even do that. Derek probably goes Elijah Mitchell here. I mean, he already has 3 RBs. Let's see what he does. If we don't get Elijah Mitchell, I don't know what we're doing. Maybe Tony. Yeah, it'd have been real nice if we had one of Lance, Wilson, or Elijah Mitchell. We have a donation question coming out. Thank you, of course, so much. Coming out from Isaiah says, how much different do you draft in a league where one slot is for a rookie? For example, okay, I think we already answered this, but I'll answer it again for you. Let's take Kadarius Toney. I hate it, guys. I hate it. We can set ourselves up with the ability to take Daniel Jones later on. We made a mistake. That's my fault. 100% mistake on my end. We should have gone Amari Cooper at pick 67, and then that way we could have just taken Miles Sanders in the middle of the 7th round. We thought we could get away with taking running back value in the middle of the draft by deciding to go with Stephon Diggs in round 1, but still, it's a mistake on our part. We should have taken Amari Cooper, pick 67. This draft looks crazy so far. I'll be honest, though. I loved it through the first 5 rounds. Through the first 5 rounds, I think the top 1 percentile outcome was there for it to be a true tournament winning team. Whereas now, it's a lot tougher to get there. But going back to what we were speaking with Isaiah says, how much different do you draft in a league where one slot is for a rookie? Yeah, we talked about this earlier. I mean, I think that you just go ahead, you reach on Breece Hall. Because if we're looking at such a significant teardrop from Breece Hall to the other rookies in this class, like if you're looking at the points you would get from Hall on a week-to-week basis compared to, say, what you're going to get from a Rashad White and Isaiah Spiller, I mean, it's night and day, where I'd be willing to push Breece Hall up instead of him going at pick 45 here. I think in that format where you have to start a rookie, like no matter who it is, you're going to be forced to throw out Rachaad White. I'd be willing to push up Breece Hall past Javonte Williams. I'd be willing to push him up past Travis Etienne. I'd be willing to push him up to the 3rd round. And beyond that, I mean, some other top level rookies. If we're looking at Drake London and a lot of these wide receivers, if you miss out on that top guy, I don't want to be pushing them up draft boards too far. I'm confident in saying Breece Hall is someone that we're guaranteed to be able to start this upcoming season. What I would probably do is instead, I would probably backfill our roster, like the last 5 rounds. If you're playing in a shallow league, I would want to just bring in as many rookies with upside as I possibly can. Hope that we hit on one and then we can go ahead and we can cut the other 3 or 4 and we have our one guy to start. So I think plan A is you reach on Breece Hall, probably draft Breece Hall a little bit too early. And if you don't have that plan coming together, then plan B is you go ahead and you just draft a crap ton of guys at the very end. But let's take Clyde Edwards-Helaire here. I really like the value of CEH at pick 91. It's going to be a pick that I consistently make while he's available. Now, at running back, we're very strong. I don't think we look to draft another running back for quite some time. I'm sure Derek probably wanted to go ahead and be able to draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire 91, but Derek also takes a lot of MVS, and he obviously has Patrick Mahomes. Okay, so let's move this down. So, yeah, please get these running backs off the board. Ramondre Stevenson, Chase Edmonds, gone. Get these running backs off, please. Get Dallas Goedert off. Oh my gosh, I wish we could go back. We should take back that take back. The George Kittle pick at the time was fine. I think the thought process behind it was solid. The main pick we need to take back is that Josh Jacobs selection. Russell Gage off the board, 98. It's like we could possibly see a tight end go off the board with one of these next 3 picks. None of them have 2. Derek and Scooter don't have a tight end yet. Possibly we can get Goddard gone. Obviously, Damian Harris falling about 7 picks past his ADP. Doc 79. Doc 79 is part of the flock as well. I don't know if I gave him a shout out at the very beginning of this live stream. He decides to go Devin Singletary over Damian Harris. Derek decides to go Tyler Lockett. I would have really liked Tyler Lockett making it back to us. Damian Harris is off the board. So let's take Robert Woods. We need wide receivers. I think if we take Robert Woods here, we can go with a 3 quarterback approach, with one of those quarterbacks being Ryan Tannehill in the second to last round. So I think it's a obtainable price point, and we're able to hammer in some wide receivers from here. So far, running back, we have Javonte Williams, Ezekiel Elliott, Josh Jacobs, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Tight end, we have Mark Andrews and George Kittle. At wide receiver, we have Stephon Diggs, Kadarius Toney, and Robert Woods. Colin says, if I deposit on Underdog with code FLOCK, do I get your draft guide emailed to you? Yes, sir. So what happens when you deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK with at least $10 is they're going to match that deposit, and it's going to happen immediately. So if you deposit $20, then you're going to have $40 in your account that second. But it's going to take a little bit of time for your email to go through their system for you to get emailed that fantasy football draft guide. So please don't check your email right away. Instead, wait about 1 to 2 hours, check your email then, and then you should have the draft guide. You should have the rankings sitting there in your email. It's not going to come from me. It comes from an automated message from Underdog. It will have all the attachments you want personally from me, of course, rankings, and they're not Underdog rankings. It's not a draft guide for Underdog. It's a draft guide and rankings for your fantasy football league, just a regular redraft league. KP says, is this a Best Ball Mania or a puppy draft? I've already maxed out Best Ball Mania. I maxed out Best Ball Mania yesterday, the day before the DeShaun Watson news broke. So I'm honestly very happy. I got all my entries in. Okay, so Christian Watson goes pick 113. Melvin Gordon off the board. I mean, we have Josh Jacobs, but if we take Cordell Patterson, we can no longer draft running back. I don't like it, guys. I don't like it. I wish we'd go back in the time machine. I wish we could trade Josh Jacobs for Amari Cooper. Oh, if I could trade Josh Jacobs for Amari Cooper right now, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But we're going to take Rondell Moore, pick 115. I'd imagine we're not going to have the opportunity to take Derek Carr on the way back around because Derek Carr should go off the board at 119 to the team that decided to take Darren Waller, or maybe, if that doesn't happen, yeah, Derek Carr goes 119. Justin Fields off the board 120. Cole Kmet 121. Good. We really need to see some of these tight ends gone. Derek says, now I feel bad for saying Josh Jacobs. My bad. No, man, do not worry about it at all. I was probably going Josh Jacobs. If y'all weren't here and I was drafting off the live stream, I would have gone Josh Jacobs. It would have been a mistake that I made no matter what. I cannot blame that on y'all. No chance. Let's move this down. Galladay would be a great pick for this roster if we're planning on grabbing Daniel Jones later on. Isaiah Spiller obviously has positive reports coming out that he is running with the first team alongside Austin Eckler, that he's the clear number 2. And obviously, Eckler's never going to be a running back to see every single touch of the backfield. That should be a committee there in Los Angeles. Alexander Madison goes 124. DeShaun Watson 125. Okay, let's sit here and think. I like Isaiah Spiller in this range. However, we took Kadarius Toney. We need to set ourselves up with the potential to have some upside. Let's take Kenny Galladay. Let's bet that Brian Dable can somehow, some way turn Daniel Jones not into Josh Allen, but turn him into an above average NFL quarterback. And he does have some sneaky rushing upside, as we've already discussed. So if we can get Daniel Jones as a top 12 quarterback in fantasy, we can draft 3 of these QBs, and he can provide value to Kadarius Toney and Kenny Galladay. That's how this team gets there. It's a long shot. Yes, we're doing some mental gymnastics, but that's what is required to win $200,000 off a $5 entry. I have to think a little bit outside the box, even though a lot of times you're just being stupid. I mean, I'm just being stupid. Now we have Darrell Henderson 130, Jalen Tolbert 131. Obviously, Tolbert's going to be a player that continues to rise in ADP whenever we have the James Washington news. I don't have a ton of Jalen Tolbert. I wish I did, because Tolbert a month ago was going a lot cheaper than he is now. I mean, I thought Tolbert was expensive a month ago, and oh dear God, I am looking stupid now. Let me pull up how much Jalen Tolbert I have. It's going to be embarrassing, guys. I'm expecting I maybe have 3% Jalen Tolbert, and Jalen Tolbert is going to continue to rise in ADP. I have 6% Jalen. Oh, that's a lot better than I thought. I thought we were going to have like 3%. I guess I was drafting Jalen Tolbert about a month ago. So I feel like I haven't been drafting him at all for a very long time. Okay. So we can't take Tua here. I guess we could go Devontae Parker if we were to... No, Gallup false. We go Michael Gallup. But if Devontae Parker were to have been the best wide receiver available, we could have gone Devontae Parker, and we could have taken Mac Jones a little bit later. I think this is now about the range too. If we find a running back value that we really like, we can go ahead and we can take our 5th running back. But I think this wide receiver room is coming together. We have Stephon Diggs holding the fort down, Kadarius Toney, Robert Woods, Rondale Moore, Kenny Galladay, and now Michael Gallup. So hopefully we have Rondale Moore as a decent enough player through the first 6 weeks with no DeAndre Hopkins that he's able to keep us afloat as we wait for Michael Gallup to come back from his torn ACL. Of course, you have to be worried about the torn ACL for Michael Gallup. He will miss the beginning portion of the season. But if it wasn't for the torn ACL, if Michael Gallup was fully healthy coming into the year, Michael Gallup would be going probably where Hunter Renfrow is. Like, Michael Gallup would be going rounds and rounds and rounds before this. Okay. Let's move this down. Devontae Parker does indeed go pick 143. We get Freiermuth and Hunter Henry off the board. Good for us to see these tight ends gone. Tua Tagovailoa is someone that we probably can't draft. I mean, if Tua were to fall to us to pick 150, that would be 18 picks past his ADP. We could go Cedric Wilson in the last round, even though it wouldn't be exciting. Yeah, we're definitely not, we're not planning on taking Tua Tagovailoa here. We're not hoping that it happens, but it may, because this team has Lance and Carr. This team has Lamar and Russ. This team has Mahomes and Cousins. Scooter has Herbert and Watson. There's a decent shot we end up getting Tua Tagovailoa at pick 150, which we don't have a stack, but I feel like we just kind of have to roll with it. David says, is Jalen Tolbert the wide receiver of 2 for Dallas? Now, he's being drafted like he is. I'll say in games that both Michael Gallup and Jalen Tolbert play together, I would be willing to bet any amount of money on the planet that Michael Gallup outscores Jalen Tolbert on a points per game basis. Now, the bet is, and the question is, how many games do you actually get from Michael Gallup? Because he tore his ACL after Chris Godwin. Like, the torn ACL is definitely a concern for him. Okay. I don't want to queue up the order of guys that I want. I'll wait until we're on the clock and actually make that pick. There are a couple different things going through my mind. Let's see what Derek does. Derek goes Gerald Everett. That helps us. Jameson Williams. Okay, so if Jameson Williams were to fall, I think Jameson Williams would have been a very exciting player for this roster because we could have gone ahead and we could have decided to name this team the all-torn ACL team where we had Michael Gallup, Robert Woods, and Jameson Williams all in the same roster. But also, we could have looked at Jared Goff later on. We're going to take Tua Tagovailoa. We don't have a stack, but we're getting Tua 18 picks behind his ADP. We're in desperate need of a quarterback. We are going to be able to get our stacking options later on with a Daniel Jones still. So let's take Tua. I'm not Tua excited about it. Okay, y'all got to admit that was kind of funny. But let's hope that some more tight ends go off. Jameis Winston, 152. That's to the team that has Aaron Rodgers. I'd imagine maybe they're done drafting quarterback now, hopefully, because we still need 2 of these guys. So Tyler Higbee goes 154. Good. Get these guys off, please. Please. Young Charles says, hey, Flock, in a 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, and 1 flex, 8-team draft that overvalues running backs, should I hold out for 3 to 4 round running backs or just take best player available? My man, in an 8-team format where you can only start up to 3 wide receivers, the wide receiver position is meaningless. Like here in this format where it's a 12-team league, you can start up to 4 wide receivers. Think about it. 48 wide receivers can get started in this league. In an 8-team league, more times than not, running back's going to be what you want to put in your flex. So instead of, 48 wide receivers being started, you're going to have closer to 20 wide receivers being started. Like wide receiver just simply doesn't matter. I would be pushing running backs up dramatically. But what I would really want is to come away with Travis Kelce, to come away with Mark Andrews, to get one of those elite tight ends in that 8-team format, and also one of those quarterbacks that has access to an elite level ceiling. But in an 8-team league, you can possibly just get Trey Lance with your last pick. So I don't even think you have to take a Josh Allen early. Okay, so Keel Herbert goes 157. That team's just loading up on running backs at this point. Noah Fant off the board. Okay, so we can still go ahead and we can grab some wide receivers. So if we were to get Robbie Anderson, we can get Baker Mayfield later on. If we were going to get DJ Chark, we can go ahead and we can end up getting Jared Goff later on. Mac Jones goes. So let's look at all the teams behind us. Chiefs only has 1 QB. Let's think this through. I think we have to take Daniel Jones. Even if I like a wide receiver value here, I don't think we can roll the dice and see if Daniel Jones makes it back to us. There is a team behind us that only has 1 quarterback. Another team can surprise us and take their 3rd. So let's take Daniel Jones. This team has all its eggs in the New York Giants basket. Like if this team's any good, Kadarius Toney has to beat his ADP. Kenny Golladay has to beat his ADP. And if that were to happen, Daniel Jones is going to beat his as well. So let's take Daniel Jones. We'll get that double stack with the New York Giants offense. And like I said, I like Daniel Jones in fantasy this year, specifically because he does have that rushing upside. Sean says, Jags just listed James Robinson as their running back 1 over Travis Etienne on their last step chart. It's something to monitor, but at the same time, with Travis Etienne's never played a game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it comes to their official depth charts, like when we are hearing, oh, Nick Westbrook-Ikeen's playing over Treylon Burks. Oh, Rashad Penny's 100% the starter this season over Kenneth Walker. I am taking that with a grain of salt. Like, that's what you tell the player that's been with your team for years. Of course, you're going to pay the man his respects. Okay. After we take Daniel Jones, we have a run on wide receivers, which is not too great for us. I mean, we can still go ahead and draft 1 more running back. The team there at the turn decides to go Brian Robinson and Carson Wentz. Robinson would have been a running back I'd have been excited about later on. Okay, Matt Ryan's available. In terms of Indianapolis Colts players, Matt Ryan would have fallen 24 picks past his ADP if we get him here. We could get Alec Pierce on the way back around. So, yeah, we're probably going to go Matt Ryan if he falls. Darrell Williams, 171. Outside of that, a running back, I'm fine with Jamal Williams. See what Derek does. Both these teams right before us have 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 6 wide receivers. Derek decides to go Marlon Mack. Robert Tonyan goes. So, yeah, we're going to take Matt Ryan. The man falls 24 picks past his ADP, if I can do math correctly. Let me see. No, I can't do math correctly. He falls 14 picks. No, 17 picks past his ADP. God, you can tell this is our 5th draft. We've been live for over 3 hours. Guys, I got to cut this live stream. We've been live for over 3 hours. I'm not going to be able to talk tomorrow. I got to make videos tomorrow. We got a live stream again tomorrow night. We're going to try to get y'all 4 or 5 fantasy football drafts tomorrow night. But thank you, of course, for being a part of the flock, supporting the channel. I'm sorry that I had to cut this off here. We've been live for over 3 hours. I promise you we will get more drafts tomorrow. So make sure you go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. And also, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. With promo code FLOCK, you'll get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with legitimately just a $10 deposit. Please make sure you're taking advantage of that. But that's all I got for you. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day, and I hope we get to see you out with the draft tomorrow night.